So I guess I should have started it. Huh?
You sure you don't want one?
No, I'm right.
Okay.
I got Coors, too, if you don't want Miller.
That's piss.
I don't like Coors either. So that's why they're still in there.
Better.
You ready?
Yep.
All right, rock and roll. Offshore Live number 21 with Stephen Kraus and Zack Schenk. Hey, everybody, welcome back to Offshore Live number 21 with Stephen Kraus and Zack Schenk from JSBR. Thanks for coming in, boys. Good to see you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, what's going on?
Of course. People at home don't know that we've already been sitting here doing a podcast for a half hour.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, probably about. Yeah.
Just getting comfortable with our.
That's it. Just breaking in. But thanks for coming up, dudes.
Yeah, definitely.
No
Thanks
problem.
for having us.
Of course. Steve got here. He was pre-gaming.
Yeah, I was pre-gaming in the parking lot.
Yeah,
Warming
I
up.
show up last minute to everything I go to, man. Just on time.
It is awesome. So I'm excited to have you guys in because, and I'll tell you why, I've done 21 of these shows now, and I've never had a set of competitors. Nope, never had a set
So
of
you got
competitors.
a first right here.
That's
It's a
pretty
first.
Cool.
It's a first.
Good thing I came in first this year.
No, well, I mean, easy now. Easy.
I'm Mr. 10 points. Remember that.
Is that why you made him sit on the outside?
Yeah.
Actually, technically, if we were racing, I'd be on the inside.
Right
so.
now, yes, he'd be on the inside. But I still beat him from the outside. So
That don't matter, though.
it doesn't matter what lane I'm in. Stick me in lane 10. I'll still be a battle.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is why I was excited to do this one. So
There might be
I mean,
a lot of
it is a
smack
first,
talk.
so we are used to first. I mean, we both got a bunch of firsts this year.
Definitely. I just made
Every
out
time
in the
I get a
end.
first, I do a flip off the boat. Every time he gets a first, his engine's usually smoking out the
Oh,
header.
every race, man. Every race. And the one drone video, legit, you can see Jimmy like zoomed out of it. And there was just a big smoke ring around the whole track, and it was just boiling out of my headers.
for the people that are watching this that follow my show from Offshore or, that side of things, why don't you tell everybody who you are?
I'm Stephen Kraus out of New Gretna, New Jersey right now. I drive the Bad Clam G21, and I also own the Money Pit G16. That's going to be coming out. That's a 358 boat. Bad Clam's a 350 stock boat.
And you're in 350 stock, too?
Yeah, I'm also 350 stock. I'm Zack Schenk, owner driver of Nautical Nightmare G69. It's a 350 stock boat. It's nothing really too special. Last year I was only doing like 65, but 65 is pretty fast on the water.
Yeah, especially when you're only 8 inches tall and freeboard.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
It's a different world.
Yeah.
Everybody knows this now, but, I rode in one of these things one time, and that was the part I couldn't get over. It wasn't the speed or the size of the boat or anything like that. It was just being on the boat versus in the boat. It felt a little
Yeah,
weird.
you're legit, like, sitting in my seats, I have maybe, like, 6 inches between the side, like, the top of my leg and
Right,
the top of my gun, like, my legs sit over the side of my boat.
right. It's crazy
Yeah.
to be going that
is.
fast.
Usually it's you either sit in it once or you sit in it for the rest of your life. It's, I mean, you find the adrenaline rush is absolutely
I
exhilarating.
definitely will say, though, I had a lot of people in my boat this year, and I scared every one of them out of it.
That's why I named it the Nautical Nightmare, because that's what they get.
I just give people nightmares.
I love it. And I love that. Right behind you is a picture of our original race boat, the purple and yellow Viper there.
Yeah.
That was notorious for scaring navigators away.
Mm-hmm.
One year they went through 17 navigators. And that was back when we didn't, OPA was only a small circuit. We ran, here and there races. And
Yeah.
our real entity was the Jersey Boys, which you see everywhere, right? And what that was we had like Point Pleasant and Seaside, right? So from there, we would get all the boys together and like head south and just get like 20 of us to go to one race, right? So when we would pull in, they'd be like, "Oh, the Jersey Boys are here." That's how that came.
Yeah.
That's really the origin of OPA, you know. And so it's funny that we used to go to all the organizations. So if one had 6 races and one had 5 races and one had 5 races, we ran 16 races. We went everywhere there was a boat race, right? And we would bring a new navigator every race because nobody would get back in. That boat was a psycho machine. So I definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, well, that kid Peyton from Moorhead,
He's the only one that said he would get back in?
he's one of the only guys, other than like 2 other guys, that are like full blown, like ready to hop back.
And
in.
that's out of like 16, I think.
That
might be an exaggerating number.
No, I would
but
definitely say there
definitely,
is like
you
10
definitely
people.
hit double digits. On
Yeah,
it.
I think there was definitely like 10 people that got in the boat, went out one time, and they were like, "I'm good, man. I'm
Right.
good."
Well,
Just run the thing on the edge, man.
It is, and it's any boat that you get in and do just any kind of, I don't even know with sketchy shit, right? Like
I wouldn't even say it's really that
honestly,
sketchy.
it all depends on the boat you get in too. Like some of the boats handle like they're Cadillacs on the water. No matter what you do, you could sit there with no hands on in the bars. Like direct
It also
deposit.
depends
His
on the
boat
weight
handles
of the-
really good, but then you get another boat that doesn't handle so well. It's flighty. It's all over. It's a rough
Well,
ride. I
it's
mean,
like
you never
a
know.
good comparison, I would say, is like the Fighting Lady.
Yeah.
Heavy boat, handles rough water really well. My boat, super light. Rough water, man, I'm barely in the fucking water 80% of the time.
right.
Like, even like when it's calm out, I'm still running on the back 2 feet of my boat, all prop.
Now, is that so? When you're looking at differences in handling on the boats, right? Is that really just affected by weight?
It's affected by multiple things. The way
Yeah.
you have the plate set, the weight.
Well, aside from
the
the plate,
distribution of the weight. I mean,
How wide the
Right.
boat is, if it has a chime, if it's a hard edge.
hard chime, soft chime, triple chime. It
so
doesn't matter.
Dive into that a little bit because I've done a few of these now, and when I ask, see, if you're not involved, like me, right? Like I'm involved but not involved. I don't build them, I don't run them, right? So to me, it looks like a flat bottom, right? When I look at the bottom of an offshore boat, I can look at the strakes, I can look at the steps, I can look at the pad, I can look at a number of things that'll tell you the different characteristics between boat to boat,
Well,
right?
that's exactly what ours are. I
Well,
mean,
but when you look at the bottom, there's no lifting strakes. There's no it is
No,
a
it's
flat bottom
it's
boat.
A true flat
no,
bottom.
it's
So-
a true flat bottom. Some of them have a little, probably like a 3/4 inch belly in it. I would say.
Well, so this is what I want to get into. So explain about when you say belly, what do you mean?
like the back half of the boat, 4x8, is supposed to be perfectly flat.
Right.
Perfectly flat. Not in a belly in it. No warp. No nothing. Majority of the boats are not perfectly flat. They either got a little warp in it from sitting on the bunks or
Well, we're also
from
talking
the
about
mold.
boats that have been built 20, 30,
Right.
40, some 50 years ago.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
decomposing.
there's
composites.
some boats. Chris's boat, the Miller Time, that's grandfathered in. I mean, it's an awesome boat. It handles good.
Well, that boat-
when that boat was made, it had a lot of cinder blocks put in the mold. So
Yeah, they pulled it out of the mold and then set cinder blocks in the center of the boat to bow the bottom out a little bit.
it more or less V'd it, but it handles really good in rough water for that.
Right.
But
Right.
I mean, you got the hard chime boat, like Fighting Lady. That was a hard chime boat. It just came down and it was square.
Right.
You got the soft chine where it comes in and then it drops down
feathers.
on like, I don't know, 60-degree angle, say.
Right.
And then
Because it's hard to see. Like if you're just walking up to one, unless you are building it or
when they're on the trailers, you can see.
Yeah.
But like when they're sitting in the water and like we're going around the track, you can't see any of it.
right.
They
But-
all look like they're square boats.
But you have to kind of know what you're looking at when you
Yeah.
say you can see it. Like you kind of have to know. Like if you look at the bottom of any one of those boats, like if I point out the step is the first thing you see. If
Yeah.
I point out the inner strake's first thing you see. If you walk up to any one of these boats and you're not super familiar with them, you'll miss all of that.
Yeah, you won't.
They all look the same if you don't have the education. So it's cool that I've been really like begging for somebody to dive into that part of it because it like even for me, I'm still like learning through all that.
Well, I mean, I redid Money Pit, and then I'm in the middle of redoing Bad Clam now. Just a lot of cosmetic work that has been neglected for years. I mean, the boat's been through the ringer. They need to be worked on every now and then. I mean, you can't just go 7 years and just beat the balls off of it and expect it to still hold up and be as good as it was day one.
Well, I don't know because Shanky showed up and his shit started every race.
Hey, I don't know, dude. There was
But there was a
there
lot-
was,
there was
there
a
was
lot
two
of hope, there
races
was a lot of luck. It's-
where I had to borrow somebody's battery to make it out, and then the other race we legit took a jump pack, hooked it up to the battery,
And by the way, dude,
as I started,
by the
we
way,
ripped it
I
off,
ran that
so.
jump pack from Johnny's truck to you.
I know.
So
Yeah.
I helped you beat
no,
me this year.
Yeah, yes, he did.
I had a good sportsmanship.
But then again, he did show up at the one race I didn't show up to, and we get show up points. So he got 10 show up points, and in the long run, I actually ended up beating him by that 10 points. So remember that.
I'll remember that because I'm going to add another 0 to
Hey,
it this
like
year.
I said, dude, it's gonna be by 15 points this year.
Hey, it's going to be 100 points on my end, man.
So you guys are number 1 and 2 in 350. So
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
is there anybody coming out in 350 that
Yes.
you guys want to kind of?
Yeah. Besides Shanky, my number one Screaming Sue.
He's gonna be a tough boat.
He's
beat,
gonna be a tough.
honestly.
I'm not gonna lie.
He's throwing a wrench into the ringer over here.
Nick knows how to drive.
Yeah,
I'll give him
he's
that.
a seasoned driver, and that boat's fast with any motor that's in it.
He'll be in here soon.
Yeah.
Him and Jimmy are coming in.
Yeah.
And that's the one I kind of wanted to talk about. So I was a fan of the sport probably, and I'm going to be really vague here and probably off by a year or two, but probably in like the 8 to 12 range, right? And I saw that boat a lot. So I was curious, like...
It's a real nostalgic boat. I mean, it's kept its color. It's kept everything. It's just like Ricky from Radical Red. I mean, has never changed a name in like 30 years.
Right.
I mean, everybody's giving me crap about changing the name of my boat, but it's like...
That's all right, buddy.
Dude, it's your boat. Do whatever you want.
Exactly.
That's what I say, man. And you did it before it hit the water, right? Or... I don't know. I'm a big
I bought the boat and changed the name before I physically put it in the water.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
they say it's bad luck.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But your bad luck didn't come until after championship day, so that doesn't even count.
I had a killer season.
Yeah. So that don't even count. I mean, I don't think there's any bad luck in that.
Nah, I don't think so. It was just slight chance of whatever.
So there's you, Screaming Sue. Who else?
In that
Grey
class,
Ghost.
we also have Grey Ghost. We
Jeff
have
Ludwig, right?
Yeah.
I believe Last Minute is coming out. I believe that's a 350 stock. We got
That's a
Donnie
350
Brown. I believe
stock.
he's a 350 stock this year.
I don't know if he's going.
Or super stock.
I don't know if he's going to be super stock or 350, but he's going to be in one of the classes. He's a long-time racer. He's always been a co-pilot. Actually, killer co-pilot, man. He's ran with me a few times, and it's so funny running with him because he's all over the place, jumping out of the seat as we're running.
He's actually one of the best co-pilots.
Absolutely.
I mean, honestly, out of the whole sport,
Absolutely.
he's one
Like
of the best
his
co-pilots.
hand is in my face, I mean inches in front of my face, pointing, telling me go, telling me over, got a guy here, and his hand's here the whole time, in my face, and I'm like, get your hand out of my face, man.
Well, what's cool about that is for us, the Navigator started as a guy that plotted your course.
Yeah.
Right? So back when we first started, you were running from Point Pleasant to Fire Island, New York.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So they would have the Lowrance chart plot and everything in front of them, and they'd be reading and managing speed. And so the Navigator was important. And then as it kind of went on, we started racing in these circuit style courses where the Navigator was less and less important. But I always ran one because to me, I felt I could drive better if I didn't have to think about where everybody else was, right? And I had an awesome navigator in Matt DiGiacomo who might come out and help out with some engine tech stuff through the year with you guys. And he ran with me through some of the hardest shit we ever ran through. I mean, we ran Atlantic City in 2016 in a small craft advisory with 16-footers, the base swells, and so I had that kid with me through some shit.
Yeah.
And it never really dawned on me how important that was until I didn't have him anymore.
yeah.
All of a sudden I'm missing my buddy. Nobody's telling me who's right there and who's over there.
Means a lot. I mean,
Some
whether they're
people
telling you where
say that a
flags are.
co-pilot's just for counterweight. Some people say that
Ballast.
it's important.
Yeah, but
It all depends.
It does, and I think with you guys, it's more that position reminds me more of the guy when you see the videos from inside the rally cars.
Absolutely.
Right? That's more what that job is because it's not our boats, even though it's radical and violent, you still know what's going on.
Yeah.
You're still in a big boat. Even though to us, we lose capacity, right? From a 24-foot boat to a 38-foot boat to a 50-foot boat, we think, 24 is a small boat. It's not. It's just a smaller boat.
Yeah.
A small boat is a Garvey.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
My boat's 16'9".
And flat.
And
Yeah,
flat.
Same thing.
Yeah.
I'm 16.8, I think, or 16.9.
Right.
So.
Most
I was
of
gonna
the
say
24/7s.
illegal, dog.
No, 16.6. You got to be 16.6 and higher. I'm the sergeant at arms of the club. I think I know the rules in and out.
Well, it's just you watch these things run, and to me, it looks like as a driver. See, I'm a driver in my world, right? But I'm not throttling too, and I'm not trimming too, and I'm not. The driver in your boat is.
Oh yeah, we're in
is
control.
pedaling.
Throttle, trim,
yeah.
everything.
You're pedaling, you're trimming, you're driving, you're everything. So when you watch that rider telling you who's inside, who's outside, you got this turn, watch for the apex. That shit is
Can you
so
move
cool.
inside? I mean, it's. I mean, with the Garveys, everything happens so quick. You got 4 laps. I mean, when you guys go, you guys do your miles. I mean,
Right.
we do maybe 2 miles in our
Right.
race,
I'd
period.
say if that.
That's stretched out, letting our legs run, too.
Right.
It's everything happens so quick in the turns and everything. You let it off the plate too much. You grab it too much. I mean, it just... that you hit a hole in the water in the turn. I mean,
And like
it's
setting the plate coming into the turn, there's like a certain point to where it's like a good set, or it's like I fucked that, and it's
Right.
a
yeah. Now
bad
you're
set.
scrubbing too much
Yeah.
speed because at the same time you want to find that
Yeah.
equal point where you're
'Cause
like,
I
yo,
know-
I don't want to use my plate, but at the same time you gotta.
Yeah.
But you don't want to scrub your speed.
Right.
You
Well,
want
it's
to keep
like
your speed up.
I know, like Jeff Ludwig, the one race we went out, and we were just out there doing like a fun run. I think it was like when we were doing a free for all, and we were just messing around. And we came into the turn, and I set my plate, and he like watched my boat dive into the corner, and then we came in, and he's like, following you. He's like, you actually just taught me how to and when to set my plate, because he's like, I never really knew like when to set it. He's like, but watching how you set it, and then your boat just took the corner. He's like, now I understand like the point of good or no return. Like,
Right. Well, and that's why, like, I've always, and you guys do test and tunes for a totally different reason. But for us, like, I have guys call me that they're out in the river testing the boat and testing the boat and testing the boat. And I sit there and I think, like, why? Like, you're just wearing the shit out. You're not learning anything. Like, you don't learn anything until you get on a race course with other racers that are pushing as hard as
Oh,
you are.
yeah.
That's when you learn something. You don't learn shit out riding around in a river.
No.
You know?
And honestly, I don't test. I really don't test.
I really didn't do any testing.
I
either.
tested.
No.
I tested once this year.
If
Because
I
I'm a big
test-
believer. If it's not broke, don't fix it.
If I test-
absolutely, and I think I got you beat on that one this year.
Yeah, I know.
He's going to show up
I'm the
without
type
the
of
port
I'm the
side
type
of
of
his
guy
boat.
where I got such
No,
bad
no,
luck.
no,
Like
that'll
if
be
if I didn't have bad luck, I wouldn't have luck at all. So it's like I got to fight for everything I do. Everything, you know what I mean? My second place I got this year. I got to fight for it all.
It was a good time though.
It
was.
It was. And I will say, because for me, it was kind of a reintroduction. So, like, I'd been out of this for so long that this year was, for all intents and purposes, it was my first year.
Yeah,
I
well,
mean,
you're not really the only one either. Like, racing kind of died for a while for us, and then it was kind of just like out of the whim. Like, there was a few boats going out and doing test and tunes, trying to bring it back to life, and then it was actually me and Steve.
We started going to some meetings. We started knocking on the doors, pounding
Yeah,
them down. Yo,
we
where are
legit-
these boats? We know
legit
they're out here. We
showed
want
up to the
them.
meeting, and then I was like, I'm buying a boat within the next month. Like, what's going on with the races? And then I went and bought a boat, and then he went and bought
At
a
that
boat.
time, it was the old club. We were having meetings in a garage talking about hot dogs and playlists, and so I mean, it's crazy how we evolve in 1 year.
Legit 1 year, yeah.
We went out racing. We had a good time. There was good battles. I mean, even the 358 class, I think there were a separation of 20 points. I mean, so
Yeah.
it was a lot of close racing this year.
and
Absolutely.
evolved is the right way to say it, because I get a lot of this. Like, I get both sides of this. I get your guys' perspective, right? And then I get my guys' perspective, who were longtime fans prior or
Yeah.
knew nothing about. So I get this very interesting look. Like, I get guys that knew all about yous,
Yeah.
right? Or guys that have never seen you, and then I get to hear it from you, right? So I get both sides and then the truth.
Yeah.
Right? And it's been really cool because to me, I knew we could structure it. Like, I knew we could put a structure around it. We could put the races together. That side of it I never worry about, right? What I always stress about is there going to be racers?
Yeah.
You know, that's, like, this is a sport where you guys deal with it, but on a different level. For us, it's a cost thing. Once the cost gets too high, people dive out of the sport, right?
Yeah.
For you guys, there's just nobody building new ones. So every time one falls apart, it's
just-
like
it's
one's
just
gone.
gone at that point,
Yeah,
yeah.
so it's like we deal with the same thing on different levels. So when we were getting started, when I was sitting with you and Nick and everything in the beginning, right? It's like, okay, we can do all this, we can put all this together, but where are the boats?
Yeah.
Like, that was my question.
The
from
boats
day
are out
one.
there. We just got to show that, like this year, we showed that there was a boat count to be had.
But a serious one. So this is the part of it that changed for me, right? When you guys showed up in Summers Point, that was your kickoff. We had one before that.
We had 14 boats in Summers Point.
And there was 14 boats there. Now, I know
opening day, which is pretty good.
And I know-
out of the woodwork.
Yeah, and I know there's some offshore guys listening to this going, 14 boats are in my class. I understand
Yeah,
that, okay?
it's
But you have to
nothing to you
understand,
guys.
these boats are 50, 60 years old. I don't know.
My
I'm not,
boat was built in 78 or 79.
Thank you.
And-
Right?
Money Pit was built in, I think, late 60s, and then Bad Clam was built in, I believe, early to late 70s.
Right.
But
So now,
the
wait.
cool
Let me put this in perspective,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
Because I race with guys that get a kick out of saying vintage racing. Look at these old boats, and they go and they do 20 miles an hour, and you guys are out here kicking the shit out of these things. You
Yeah.
really are.
Yeah.
Dude,
We put a lot of stress on them.
yeah, and so here was the
There
cool
ain't
part.
nothing smooth about a flat bottom boat.
No,
man.
and you guys went from day one, opening day, to doubling the count that you previously told me you thought you were going to have. I went into this, so you know, Shank, they were telling me 6, 7 boats, right? And I'm like, all right, fuck it, it'll build. You know what I mean? I'm in, right? We got to the first one, there was 14. And I'm like, holy shit, this is working. And then not only was there 14 boats, but there was serious racing going on.
Oh, yeah.
Like
right out of the gate.
Right out of the gate. Nick's telling me it's a field of rookies.
Steve's head like blew up like 50
yeah.
size.
I mean, I won both my heats right out of the gate,
Yeah,
so it felt good.
His head went to about
the first race
this
is a double
size and
points
stayed about
race,
that big.
so that's kind of what put me in the lead for most of the year, and then I lost at championship.
This is the only
day.
guy that had to buy a new helmet halfway through.
Oh, yeah, because his head got so big.
So when we got that done with Summers Point, right? You guys are out there kicking ass. Amy was out there. She won in Summers Point. Right. And I remember the feeling of the season was like, I never once got this worried feeling like that I normally get with my own shit, where it's like, is it going to be as good? Is it going to be right? And like that just went away, and I was like, oh, we just need to get to work. Like they're here, the racers are here.
It felt like home. Like it felt like first race, we're like, okay, this is it, and then like championship. I think we had 25 boats that day.
Yeah.
25. And
well, you also got to think, like, once, like, everybody's in the water and everything, and then, like, the first race comes up, once the motors fire up, everything just falls in line after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but you're looking back at the shore from the boats, and then you're just seeing, like, the boats that are surrounding us, our course, and you're just like...
There's layers to it where it's like Summers Point was cool because the location was nice, the optics of it was beautiful. Summers Point's just a great place.
It was a gorgeous backdrop too.
Yeah, it's a great place for a boat race. Yeah. And then we went from there to Parkertown, right? And I'm thinking in my head, like, okay, Parkertown's going to be a little scaled back from here. It's going to be a little pulled back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
we got to Parkertown, and it was 5 times the event.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm like,
that's our home right there.
But
It's
see,
local,
you have to remember,
it's
I'm going
homegrown.
through this with no knowledge.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just going into things for the first time. So, like, I walk through the door in Parkertown, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, God's honest truth, right? I didn't even know. I was filming for you guys. So I'm doing videos and shit like that, right? And I ran a drone out, and I think that was the race I got Wolfen going over, right? I think Wolfen went over.
That was the race Steve got that 10 show-up points.
Ah, fucker.
Yeah, because I made a little mishap on my end because I am the mechanic of my boat and everything. So made a little mishap late on at night on a hot day.
Zach's his own mechanic, too. His shit just never breaks.
Yeah, dude.
Well, he didn't have
that's
to take
where
this
that
apart.
if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Comes
Yeah,
real
well,
good.
I had a couple broken parts that I had to fix, and I ended up bending valves in my head. And I could have changed it at 10, 11 o'clock at night. I chose to just take the show up points, and in the end, it bit me in the butt. So next time, I'm putting forward the extra effort.
Just think, if I actually showed up to that race, I would have really beat you then.
It's okay. What about the heat where both of my accelerator pumps and my carburetor are locked up? How does that happen? I go out the first heat. It's running perfectly fine. I think I got a first, and I go out for the second heat. The boat doesn't even want to turn over.
Yeah.
I got fuel in my bowls, everything. It should have at least kicked over. Nope, nothing. Both of my accelerator pumps were locked up in between heats.
It's a boat.
Happens.
I had a bad feeling
pretty
getting
good
into
at
that boat that day. Honestly, though, like and that's the funny thing is, you have like these bad feelings where you can't help it. I was like, and then my co-pilot got a bad feeling. My wife got a bad feeling. I'm like, it's all meant to be.
I think it's what we do I'll say we here because I think this is the same across both, right? Mm-hmm. What we do is something that's not very fucking normal. That's just the truth of it.
Not. No.
Most people, if they get in one of our boats, unless you're already an adrenaline junkie, and if you're watching the show, you probably are. Yeah. You know what I mean? But it's just for a normal person to even fathom what we do. It's inconceivable, right? Well, now imagine you have to have a whole lot of shit go right that morning for you to have a good feeling.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
You know what I mean? Like, so if you're having a bad feeling, there's usually a pretty tangible reason for it. You just don't know what it is yet.
And the Garveys...
I always think of it as think the worst, and when nothing happens, you just had a good day. Like, every race I showed up to, I expected the motor was going to blow up or I was going to get thrown out of the boat and end up in the water. So when those two things didn't happen... It was a good day.
Yeah, I'm definitely the same way, but like it definitely plays in your head where it's like, hey, the Garvey's a little bit different than the skiffs. You're not seatbelted in. The skiffs are known for winging out, but I mean, you don't get ejected, you don't get thrown. I mean, the Garveys are notorious for throwing people and flipping, and it could be a violent flip. I mean, we had one this year.
And it happens quick. Like it happens before you can think about even trying to correct it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like
and
you thought you came into it perfect, and next thing you know, you're in swimming, and you're like,
It could be the wake off another boat that was driving by 10 minutes ago that's still kicking the water around.
Well,
And
it baffles me because what it looks like to me is what I'm going to call a corkscrew, which is just prop walk. Like when you see them in the straightaway, not all of them. Like in the turns, there's obvious high sides and shit like that, right? But like we had was it D'Agostino's boat that went over going into the last turn in Tuckerton?
it was actually coming straight down the back
and it was right
straight.
down the pipe. And
Because
it just,
he was on the outside of me, and he kicked off my wake. And when he kicked off my wake trying to pass me, I seen him out of the corner of my eye, and Austin's hit me, telling me, "Stop! That's my driver." Because he drove with Jay that was driving the boat, and I was like, I know. I said, "That's my buddy." I said, "Dude," I said, "I'm stopping." But you never know what can happen, even coming down a straight.
What's wild to me is I understand the mechanics of what happened there and the physics of what happened there. But what blows my mind is when you pull them out of the water and you had all that force off a prop that's the size of my beer can.
yeah, it's a little big. I would say two beer cans stacked on
But
top
it's-
of each other at least.
But isn't that mind-blowing? Like, I can't believe the force that those boats create off that prop.
well,
It's
it all
insane to me.
depends on the cup of the.
Sure.
It's a lot of things.
I
in
understand the
prop,
science
yeah.
of it, but it's just when you look at it, it's like baffling. Like, how are they that fast on that prop?
Yeah.
And it's funny because like a lot of guys think you could, let's go faster, let's put more power to the motor, more power. No, the real power is in the prop.
In the prop.
Absolutely.
Power to the prop is what
Well,
it
look
because
at,
the,
look at
you
Jimmy
prop.
Crimmins. He came out 2-barrel stock or whatever he was in, and he completely blew every one of us away.
Yeah, good
He,
setup.
he has a prop
Yeah.
for that boat that works. I mean,
Also-
there is the prop for the boat.
Also, I think a point there too is Crimmins is a guy who's been doing this for a long time.
he has. He's definitely a veteran,
and
man.
Prop
Yeah,
testing
no doubt about it.
takes a long time, and
It
I'm sure
does.
all your guys know all about that.
It's time.
Yeah.
And so, like, when you watch Crimmins run, like, you're watching a guy with a pretty refined product, where it's like that, like, championship day, I almost wasn't surprised because it's like seat time is king. It really is.
It is.
Absolutely, yeah.
And like watching him run, it was seat time. The line in the corner,
You could
he
see
never
it.
lifts. Never lifts.
No.
You know what I mean? It's all
Well,
line.
that's also another thing in our boats. When you lift, like, it throws the boat into a totally different thing.
It does
yeah.
what you don't want.
You lose
Yeah,
suction.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
want to stay in the throttle as much as you possibly can.
in these boats, you want suction, and that's why you grab the plate into the
You
corner.
would think like a flat bottom boat, like you're not getting sucked to the water, but it actually creates a suction that holds.
Sure.
this.
Sure. Or else,
So it's-
why else would they stay in water? Because there's nothing that should be keeping it in the water.
No,
Not
I mean,
when we're
we
coming
got the fins on the boat that
Right.
honestly they make a big deal too,
Oh,
whether
yeah.
it's 2 or 3 fin, because whether they're tall or the leading one is taller than the rear one. I mean,
Well, put
or
it
vice
this way,
versa.
like,
It's-
my boat was actually a center console boat when it was first built. Like, it was an actual bay and go out in the bay and go fishing.
Like a
for the
real
day.
clammer.
Yeah, a real
Yeah.
clam boat. And then in 2001, I want to say it was, Jeff Von Schmidt, Denny Dyer, and a few guys turned it into a race car RV.
Right.
So, like, the back of my transom's actually slanted for an outboard.
Right.
So it's kind of cool to think that my boat was a physical bay boat to go out clamming and everything, and now I'm out there doing 65, 70 miles an hour.
Right. Well, and it's cool because it came from the origin.
Yeah.
Which is cool. I mean,
Absolutely.
that's like my biggest thing was the boat I started in was a 24-foot Carrera.
Yeah.
And it was built in 79 by Alex Pecan down at Carrera Powerboats. And like I had Alex is a great guy and he stays on Facebook with all of his information. So like I'm able to go and see like the promo of like if you were to go to Carrera and buy my race boat brand new, like what it costed, what it came with, what it
Yeah.
and like to me it was cool because you could see through the bullshit. Like it was like, oh, it had 5 gas tanks, and it's like, yeah, that's what those were for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
sure. And it's like it's cool because it's like it came from the origin. Like we came from drug runners, you guys
Yep.
came from boozers. It's
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And it's just so cool.
But
Like
what I was getting to about the fins and everything, like my boat was a center console, so like you guys know how flat bottom center consoles turn in the bay. They get up on their side and they turn. So with the fins on the bottom, it actually lets the boat turn flat now instead of leaning up on its side.
I was going to ask that.
It-
So
it's like a sailboat where it keeps it in the water. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Right.
The keel keeps the sailboat in the water.
when I first
So
saw
it-
the fins, so I'm trying to figure out when I saw them, like, what's the logic here? Because the one thing we never do is put something in front of a propeller.
Well,
You know what I mean?
and there's really like after all the years, they have it figured out. I think it's like something like 76 or 78
inches from the prop.
From the prop. That's where the fin should lie. I mean, and then it's like, do you put 2 on it? Do you put 3 on it?
Right.
I mean, it makes a world of difference.
Well, I didn't realize, so when I first saw them, I figured it helped you track straight. Is kind of like what I figured, which is probably one of the uses. But what I didn't realize is it actually helps the boat stay flat in a turn.
It's our leading fin to stay flat.
Sure. I didn't realize how the fin could affect the boat this way.
Yep.
But what it does is it stays deep in the water and stops it from moving. Kind of like if you're holding the broomstick from the middle and the bottom.
Yep.
Versus just holding the broomstick from the middle, right? And I was like, oh, that makes a lot more sense. Like it never, like that's the cool thing about all this is I think you can spend the next 100 years trying to learn everything about these that if you walked up and didn't know anything, you probably think is a pretty simple, primitive machine. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a lot of detail to it.
And it's not.
It's not, but at the same time, it is. I mean, a lot of it is mechanical steering, cable steering.
But go into it thinking that, you'll be last place.
Oh, yeah.
There's tricks. There's,
you definitely got to learn the tricks of the trade. And like I said, when we started pounding the doors down, we kind of got in at the right time. Everybody was willing to help. Everybody's willing to tell you the next thing.
Like you start talking to the old timers that have been doing it for 20 years plus. Like if you're talking to them, like interested, like they'll teach you. Like,
sure.
I've learned numerous different things from multiple different people.
Right.
And it's like, it's a big help in the long run. Because
well, and it's important too, because it's one of the things that made me so excited about JSBR was when I got to the first, not just meeting like the preliminary ones like we were doing, but when we got there and it was the first meeting with all the racers there, I had come to these events and it was all old timers.
Yeah.
It was, and not that there's a problem with that. But what exists there is the lack of or the loss of knowledge, right? Where it's like with every one of those guys that passes away or every one of those guys that just decides, fuck this, I'm not involved anymore, or every one of those guys had a piece of knowledge that you can't get anymore.
Yep, because it was all in their head. And like everything that's done to our boats isn't written down to where like I could be like, yo, like here's these dimensions for that boat, like go ahead and set it up. Like it's
impossible.
And some dude's head just randomly one night they were in the garage and she'd be like, oh, this worked, so let's do that for now.
And to me, like you everybody has like a godfather of the racing. Like we got a godfather Garvey. Like I know I got somebody I look up to. I'm sure Schenk has somebody he looks up to. I mean, Ricky at Wainwright has taught me nothing but.
I love Ricky.
He can be a handful, but he definitely knows his thing when it comes to the racing, man. He knows his stuff, bro. It's
what I like is whenever I talk to Ricky, what I see, I probably talk to more boat racers than anyone on earth, and when I talk to Ricky, I get this real happy vibe, like he's just happy to be racing.
Love.
Just
I mean, that's all, dude. That's what he says. Love. I mean, he's been doing it for so long. I mean, he's been in the worst of the situations. He's been in the best of the situations. I mean, he was telling me all year, oh, you get in this, this is what you should do, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, he didn't think I was listening, but lo and behold, I was listening, and it's nice because like I put the bucket on my boat because that's something he did when he raced. So
well, that's also like
I do it back nostalgic.
We go to these races and like we go out and we run and everything. When we come in, we have other guys that have been around it walking up to us and was like, "Oh yeah, it's a good race, this and that. Oh, but I seen you do this. You should try to do this next time." Like everyone's like real cool about it, trying to give tips to guys like me, him. A bunch of us were all rookies this year, so
I know I'm gonna get my ass kicked for saying this, so I welcome it. But that is not apparent in my sport. In my sport, the old guys will tell you how shitty the new guys are. Yeah. The old guys will tell you that when they did it, it was this, and when they did it, it was that.
Well, you still got guys like that today for us.
See, the problem is for us is they're lying. Like the old timers, and I respect them. There's a flag right there signed by Billy Martin and Charlie McCarthy, some of my heroes, and it's not for a lack of respect, but I won't just turn a cheek. Like they beat the shit out of our guys so often and so bad that I won't just let it go anymore. And the truth is, the older powerboat races were nothing more than poker runs. It's all it was. I hate to say it, and I hate for people to hear it, okay? But they went from point A to point B. They didn't care how fast the boat went. They didn't care how it handled. They didn't care. It just was get there.
Yeah.
Don't break and get there. And make sure you hit all your checkpoints. It was a navigation. It was a goddamn poker run, okay? And if you wound up deck to deck with another boat, it was only until somebody said, nah, I don't want to break my shit. We still got 60 more miles to go. Yeah. I respect it, okay? But racing in my world today is 10 times better. The difference for you guys is you've been doing the same shit since day one.
Since the early 50s.
Right.
I think it started in like 52.
I love this because I wish my sport was different. I wish there was more old-timers that were willing to accept the fact that times change, and if you wanted this sport to continue, you needed sponsors involved. If you wanted sponsors involved, the race had to be somewhere you could fucking see it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I wish they would just accept that and do what your old-timers do, and that just come down and educate these guys. You got 18 to 25-year-old kids getting their feet wet for the first time in this Class 7, and all you see on Facebook is these guys going, that's not racing. It's like, get the fuck out of here, man.
Yeah.
A lot of times in our end, too, it's the older guys have been in some of the shitty situations, and they don't want to see us go through that. So they're like, listen, you're letting off the plate too early.
Right. It's going to hurt.
You do it again, you might pay for it. You know what I mean? Like, so they look out for you in the safety feature because it is a dangerous sport,
and
man.
that makes me so fucking happy because it's like I just wish there was more people just in general like that. Like, aside from just my sport or whatever. Like, to me, I don't care who you are or what you do. If you want to come talk to me about anything, I'll sit and talk to you. If you want to ask me how to run a race from like what you need for this and that and the other thing, or if you want to ask me how to drive a boat, or I will sit and tell you anything I know. Like, I want to see the sport move forward. Yeah. I want to see more people. I want to see people that are younger than me now asking me questions so that they can know what I know when they were that young. Like, I wish I knew what I knew. I wish there was somebody that would teach me.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, like I said, we all do this. I love to go out there, try to whoop up on Shanky. He loves to try to whoop up on me. The same thing. But at the end of the day, I do it for the fans. Honestly, I do it for the fans. Because without the fans, people on the beaches, what are we racing
I've
for?
said that from day one. I'm just out there trying to put on a good show, have a good time.
Right.
Make Steve upset.
Well, and before I started saying in Parkertown, when Wolfen went over, I was starting to say I was flying a drone out there. And when I was on my way back, when you're flying those things, you're just staring at the screen.
Yeah.
When I was on my way back and the drone spun around and was looking at the beach, I was like, where's it going? Like, for like 2 minutes, I was like trying to figure out, am I aiming at the wrong
yeah, because you
place?
got cars parked a mile
I think
up
we
the
did
road.
the math, dude. It was like 2.1 miles.
And it was
of
full.
Line of cars.
It was full.
Like double laned all the way.
Yeah.
You couldn't park. Like,
anywhere. Like, you had to park almost at Route 9 and walk down that road to come watch the race. And people were doing it.
There had to have been more than 500 people there.
Dude,
on the beach.
I don't
There had
have
to
a short
been.
sleeve on. My hair is standing up. Like, when I was flying back to that beach, it took me a solid like minute and a half to like stop what I was doing and look around and be like, oh, all these people are standing here. And like, I started looking around like, holy shit, how far does that go? I flew the drone out to Route 9 and the cars didn't stop until the fork in the road.
Yep.
I was like, holy shit, that's nuts. Like, we don't get that with
But
offshore.
see, that's where it comes in with it's a local sport. So
True.
we get all the local people that have been around it for all these years. They're seeing all these boats come back out, so they're excited to get out and go see it.
Right, we all know how loud
It's
they are,
something to
too.
do during the summer.
So you could be a mile, 2 miles down the road, and you're like, "Did I hear Garvey start?"
So
So you go down to the bay, and you're like, "They're over in Parkertown."
So the funny thing
You
about
know what I
that
mean? Like,
is I live probably like 3.5 miles from our one race site, and a lot of guys go test at it. So I'll like walk outside one day, I'll be working in the yard, and I'll hear a motor firing up, ripping through the bay, and I'm like, so I take a cruise down there, and it'll be somebody out testing, and I'm like, oh, what are you guys doing? Like,
it's awesome.
yeah. So it's funny because you hear these boats on a calm day from
it really is
far
because
away.
like where I live, Joe Schmutz doesn't live far from me. He probably lives 3/4 of a mile.
Yeah, same thing.
So like when we're warming up our engines after we just got done teching them or we're doing whatever, and we'll have like a sound off. He'll rev his, I'll rev mine. Yeah, I mean you could hear it, and it's funny, man. You're sitting at your house and you're just having a rev off. Or I hear him start up, and so I drive over his house. I'm like, Sounds good, man. Sounds good. Heard it down the road.
There's so many cool aspects of this. Like, my favorite thing is when you guys come and do the block parties and stuff with us.
Yeah.
Because, first of all, my guys just get a fucking kick out of this. Like, my guy, when you pull up, they are so not concerned with whatever's going on around them. They're like, look at these things. They just love it, you know?
Well, they're just a short, tiny boat with a fucking... It's like a piece of plywood, man.
It's wild. It's just, if you've never seen one, we live here.
Yeah. We're
it's
so used to it.
It's so hard to break the mold. Like, this is only here.
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
And the motors in front of you, open headers. I mean, it's loud in your face.
Dude, Tuckerton, I tell people this story all the time. And there was a natural progression through your season, right? From Summers Point to Tuckerton last race, right? Yeah. Every race, you would hear the RPMs turn a little higher. And a little higher, and a little higher. Like in Summers Point, you could hear people kind of lifting, just getting through shit, not trying to wreck the boat.
Summers Point was rough, too.
Yeah, Summers Point was rough. And we had a hole in the one corner, so you'd come into the corner, it'd pop you out. I almost got thrown out in Summers Point.
It makes for cool pictures, though.
Oh, absolutely. You can see, I'm pretty sure you actually have a video. It's like, I come out of the seat, and I'm holding onto the steering wheel, and I'm like over the steering wheel, and I slam back into the seat. And so, like, yeah, there's...
It's just, to me, you can sit and listen, right? And to me, the fun part is you can actually listen.
Yeah.
Like, one thing I can't stand about offshore is the big boats are all going to the turbo motors, right? So it's like all the 1350s, 1550s, 1750s, they're all turbos. So as soon as you put that turbo on there, there's no noise. Yeah. It's just, they're so quiet. They might as well be outboard boats, right? And it's like, I grew up when, like, the big boat when I was a kid was Bacardi Silver. And Bacardi Silver would come by with, back in the day, with PSI chargers on it, 1,600 horse with those big 6-inch pipes and the big tube headers.
Coming right out of the back of
and it would come past 50 feet in front of you and blow eardrums out. I mean, there'd be kids running and women screaming, and I love that. Like, I want that, right? I'm standing there, we're running the live stream in Tuckerton, and for people that don't know, Tuckerton, we did live stream both times, but we did it in two different places. The first time, I did it in the cut from somebody's backyard. The second time, we got lucky, and that guy let us use his backyard, which was literally like start-finish line. And it was only maybe...
And it was nice because like you were doing the interviews in the off time. Yeah. So me and Shanky went over, did a little interview. And
So from there, when you guys were... And for people listening, they don't start like we do. So... You don't have a pace boat. I know you guys know. They don't have a pace boat, but they mill the course. And then, eventually they get everybody together. There'll be a yellow or a green flag. Nobody knows when it's coming. So the flag guy is very important because he needs to be looking into the exit of the final turn and seeing if they're decently lined up. And then if they are, he'll throw the green. If they're not, they'll go around again.
Yeah.
So this is what's happening. Now everybody at home understands.
And like our pace boat is our very inside boat.
Right.
He sets the pace to how we start.
Right.
So it's like we got guys that start super slow. We got guys like Steve that try to jump the start on everybody.
I don't jump the start.
You did on a few races.
No,
it's
I didn't. Go back to the drone footage.
I'm pretty sure I got picture proof, dude.
Well, to me, the coolest part was that live stream location couldn't have been 50 feet from the race course. And on championship day, the final heat, right, when you had all the Garveys lined up, I didn't realize what was necessarily at stake there. Like, I didn't understand the whole Garvey champion thing.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I'm thinking it's like any other race where you guys are just going to go, this guy just wants to take a shot at that guy, and this guy, and it's just going to be like a for fun thing. That green flag went up, and all five of them wound up to 7,000. And, dude, it was fucking wild.
It was me, Shanky, Jimmy Crimmins,
John.
Randy.
Or no, John didn't go out.
Randy, and Jay Speck.
Right.
Yeah.
And, dude, and I mean, for people, you can actually go watch this. Just it's on the JSBR YouTube or Facebook page. And the start of that race is just, you can hear it in our cameras. It just blew the mics out. Like, if you don't know anything about audio, you know what an audio wave looks like, right? Well,
just
when
spiked.
it gets too high, it turns red, right? And that means the speakers are at a frequency where it's just going to crumble. It's not going to record any sound, right? The green flag went up, and we just crumbled for a lap. Like, there was nothing we could do. These mics, watch. If I'm talking like this and I start to move a mic away, you'll hear it in the show, right? Okay? These mics were blown out. They don't. If you go over there and start hitting the wall with a sledgehammer, I won't hear it. That green flag went up, you couldn't hear shit. Like, I was like, dude, that is cool. Like, the ground was rumbling. I'm like, that's a boat race.
Well,
man.
It showed that there was the fastest of the fastest out there, and we all wanted the one title.
Oh, yeah,
you know what I
of
mean?
course.
It's and the biggest thing is in a stock boat, it's always the hardest. You always got your work cut out for you. So it's always sticking it to them if you could do it in a stock boat too.
Yeah.
So it shows that you can drive.
So like
also.
Jay Speck,
Right.
I stayed out in front of him in a stock boat, and he wasn't too happy about it.
Right.
Yeah.
And they'll say that your boats are lighter and this and that,
There's
but-
always something.
Nah.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
Jay did break, but
We
I was
started
still
that
in
race.
front of him
It was
90% of the
a
race.
shit show.
Yeah.
I'm like, what did I sign myself up for? Coming through the first turn.
oh yeah, coming in the first turn,
Instantly.
it was just
I
like-
must have had.
It was
You
just
could see it in
mayhem.
I have a GoPro footage. I must have had 30 gallons of water in my bilge, and I'm like, are you kidding me?
As soon as we started out, because I was next to Jimmy, and as soon as we started out, Jimmy's whitewater was just blasting me in the face, and I was just watching the corner of his boat coming into the first turn. And I'm like, thinking like, I got 4 other boats on the outside of me. This is gonna. Here we go.
And last minute they come up to me. They're like, "Oh, you and Jimmy are switching lanes. I was supposed to have lane 1 and be on the inside of them, of Shanky." And then next thing I know, I'm like, "How am I lane 3?" And lane 3, man, I was in the thick of
Yeah,
this
you're
shit.
in
Oh,
the
yeah,
soup,
you
dude.
were.
I was in the
You-
thick
you
of
were
this shit,
smacked
man.
out with everybody.
Because I got the not the fastest guy, but I got Jimmy on the inside, which his boat, everybody knows, it can keep up with the 358, if not beat it, because he just has everything tuned in on it. And then I got Shanky, and then me, and then I got Randy, and then Jay.
Yeah.
And it was just, I was just like, man.
It was mayhem.
Well,
going
and
in the
Randy's
first
another
turn.
runner too. I mean, like
Oh,
that, in that
Randy
group.
will give it all.
I-
I mean,
Yeah, Randy's
we
a
did it.
runner,
We
dude.
did it
That
in Moorhead,
guy
and I
all-
tried holding them all so
Hey,
hard.
all season long. He said that boat only did 67. I do not
Fucking
believe
liar.
that.
No,
Yeah.
that boat's fast.
Yeah.
Randy, you're a fucking liar.
100%,
67 miles
dude.
an hour.
Every time I see him, I'm like, you are such a liar. Like, no way your boat did 67.
Nah, that boat rolls, dude.
Yeah.
And I like yours is done like that too, where the deck is wood.
Yeah.
I know it's just like it's
His
just
was just a
cosmetic,
vinyl
right?
sticker.
Yeah, his
on
was
it.
a vinyl
Is that all
sticker.
it
Like,
is?
Yeah.
I never was like close enough to touch it. And shit,
yeah,
but
like the
I
deck of
love
my
that.
boat was actually
Yeah.
all mahogany. Like, it was legit mahogany wood on it.
Right.
So,
Well, so
pretty cool.
being that you just said was,
Yeah,
We
it
should-
was. Yeah,
So-
here we go. Here we go.
so
Knew this was happening.
for the guys listening at home, a lot of you saw our Moorhead race, right? And so from there was promo videos and live streams and stuff like that.
Another
You would have
fucking
seen.
shit show mayhem race it was.
You would have seen Zach's boat split in half. So
I
from
wouldn't
there,
say fully split in half. Hey, when it first happened, the hole was only about this big. All right, it's after the boat sank is when the whole side ripped off.
And we had 9 boats go down. I think we had 3 come back like in one piece, right?
Running.
Still running.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, they were the real winners after this weekend. I felt bad for everybody that weekend.
Yes.
But I'll tell you what.
First day, man.
Yeah.
First fucking day out. First race.
But
It was just like everything went downhill real fucking quick.
well, I'm standing there.
It was
at-
still such a good time.
I'm standing there at the ramp, right? And I'm talking to Nick, and I'm like, all right, you got this? Like, here's the radio. Here's,
yeah.
if you call is me. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
They'll
yeah.
do whatever you need to do because I wasn't able to stay there because I had to go. I was racing a Class 5 boat right after you guys
Yeah,
were out
yep.
there, right? So I'm running back to the dock and literally running, right?
Yeah.
Like so I'm hustling back to the dock and I look over and I'm like, what the fuck? Here comes Fighting Lady. That
Yep.
it's literally accordioned. There's
Yeah.
nothing left of it.
Yeah, the
you
whole
know,
bottom ripped out.
I'm
of it.
like, what the fuck, right? And Matt and Anthony are standing there
Standing
laughing.
on it, yep.
Yeah, and I'm like, all right, whatever. At least they're okay.
Yeah.
You know, I get back to the dock, and they're like, boom, boom, you got to go down there, figure out what the fuck's going on. You
Yeah.
know, so I'm like, all right. So I go running down there, like, all right, maybe Matt needs some help or whatever. And there's 3 more of them on their way in on the hook.
Yeah.
I'm like, Jesus Christ, what happened?
Yeah, well, that was like we went out, and I don't even know what lap it was because it was kind of just like mayhem the whole time. None of us knew really what was going on. We were just going at it.
Right.
And yeah, when everything happened, like I got in the safety boat and I see my boat was still floating. I was like, "Yo, bring me over my fucking boat so I can drive it in." And like your safety guys, they were like, "What are you talking about?" And
Yeah,
I
we
was
don't
like,
do that.
"I was like, bring me over. Like the boat's still floating." They were like, "Yo, there's a hole in the side of it." I said, "I'm not worried about that. I need to get into the dock." And they were like, "Sorry, we can't do that." So then we started towing it, and the rollers out there, they just kept
tough.
crashing into the hole.
Yeah.
And I watched my boat get lower and lower. Like I got a GoPro video of it, like actually going underwater, sitting underwater for like 15 minutes.
Right.
And it's like it sank to the bottom. He's like, "Yeah, we need a diver." And the boat sitting on the bottom is our anchor because we already had a tagline to it.
Right.
So I'm like, oh, how deep is it? I was like, I'll dive down, and they were like, oh, it's like 30 foot. I'm like, give me the rope. Like, I'll dive down. I know where the hook's at. And they were like, no, you can't dive down 30 feet to hook up the boat, man. And I'm like, why not? Like, I'm good.
It's funny because it's like it's so hard for them to break any kind of procedure.
Yeah.
Like they're so used to what we do as like it's a rinse and repeat. Like we just do the same thing. So when we added the Garvey thing, it was just like they didn't
threw them for a loop.
They just it's not that they didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
They just didn't know if they were allowed to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because everything's an insurance handicap
absolutely.
and everything's you know what I mean? So it's like when I started hearing the stories, I'm like, I wish I was out there. Like, if I wasn't racing a boat, I'd have been standing over there, and I'd be like, just let him run his boat back in. They do this all the time, you know?
Yeah. So
But
if
it's
I
just-
was able to
The truth was...
get in the boat, the
there's-
hole probably would have stayed small.
Well,
It
and there's
would've been so
50%
bad.
of this is on me because, see, I went down there with the thought process of this is an exhibition, right? Now,
we didn't take it like
Now, when I say exhibition, I knew you guys weren't going to go out there and go easy. That's not what I mean.
No.
But I just figured you guys were like, I want to run that guy. I want to run that guy.
No,
I want to.
it
You know what I
was
mean?
just-
You guys went out there like, oh no, this is a
and
race.
just let it loose, man.
Dude.
We do that every time, though.
You guys stole the show, right? But the video of Art is stuck in my head. That where he's 4 feet out of the water with that skiff sideways.
Dude, I was co-piloting in that at
So,
that time.
dude.
So the funny thing about that is the night before we all left the bar, and it was, I don't know, 1 o'clock in the morning or something
Speaking
like
of
that.
bar, hey Steve, you got another one of these Millers?
And
Am I running you dry?
No.
Because I can drink that.
so we all left Jack's and walked over to where we had the boats parked, and Art fires it up. Well, the bearing on the shaft actually blew apart in pieces.
Yeah, the thrust bearing.
Yeah, the thrust bearing blew apart in pieces, and it was shooting sparks all over the face. And he was like, I was getting hit in the face with shit, but I didn't know what the fuck was going on. And he's like, I was just holding it wide. Like, had flames shooting out of the headers 1 o'clock in the morning, like being all reckless. And he ran the boat like that all weekend.
Oh yeah.
With no bearing, was perfectly fine with it.
Yeah.
And
Headers falling off. I mean,
Yeah.
it was...
Yeah. It's fucking crazy.
He runs that thing ragged edge, and he's the only person on the course, and he still puts on the wildest show. Like there's 6 other boats out there
by
and
himself.
He's racing.
He's a one-man show, man.
He's racing his shadow, and I feel like he's sometimes he's losing because he's pushing really hard. I mean, because
Art's
dude,
good
when we
people,
came
man.
up and we chimed out of that water like that, I was just like, oh my god, I was looking down. I said, Art, I said, your head's almost underwater. Like,
He's just got a smile on his face the whole time doing it. That's the awesome part about it.
Yeah.
Is he's just pumped for it.
and for some reason, like every time we get in like one of those situations, there's like nowhere to grab in a skiff. You don't want to grab the bars or nothing because you could break your wrist. So like I'm pushing against the firewall as hard as I can. I'm bending his pedal to hit the fire. I'm like, I always grab his leg and just stick the throttle fully to the floor. I'm like, yo, if we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this the right way.
Right. It's
And usually it's already all the way there. So
uh-huh.
Yeah.
And what do you think they run? Like I was in his skiff in Summers Point. Me and Nick took it for a ride. I want to say it was like Saturday before the race or something. But I can't judge it. Like it feels fast. But what do you think
feels
those skiffs
fast.
run?
Like in Summers Point, we were a lot faster. Honestly, I think we were every bit of 5 mile an hour faster in Moorhead. I mean,
right.
with the salt water down in North Carolina.
Well, it's not just that. You have to remember
that is
the current.
super
Well,
salty.
the salt made a huge difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
the more
when-
salt, the more buoyant you are.
Yeah, but there's a huge current there. So when you were running towards the bridge, so away from the inlet, there's 6 mile an hour behind you.
Well, it doesn't matter. I mean, no matter what, it felt faster than normal. I mean,
Right.
and it wasn't like
Well, and a little
we deal,
chop, too.
we deal with whitecaps here. There
See,
was more
that-
like roller waves.
Yeah, that wasn't.
like
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that was chopped to us. Those were fucking waves for us.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Because they were like 3-4 foot rollers, and we were just full throttle bouncing off the top of them like whoops.
Right.
That's pretty
Yeah,
much
we,
what they
we
were
could do
to
the
us.
2 foot white cap, and as long as they're close together. But when you start separating them, and they pretty much ate Shanky's boat, and kind of
I wouldn't say it ate my boat.
if you watch the video, it looks like it just eats the ass end of your boat.
Well,
and
yeah,
then
that's
next
because
thing you know, you get
I
sucked.
had a hole in the
Yeah,
side,
but-
man. Like,
no,
what do you
but-
expect?
But you came out first, and that you got sucked out, and then when you got sucked out, you ripped the wheel right, and your boat went like this, and next thing you know, joke's on you.
yeah.
Dude, it's just, you know what it is?
You don't want to see a competitor go out like that. I mean, honestly,
No,
I wanted to beat
See-
them the right way that weekend.
The fucked up thing about it is, what was it? Fucking, I think it was like 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, and we came up to you, and I was like, yo, I need a co-pilot for tomorrow. And you're like, all right, hold on a minute. And you walked away for like 10, 15 minutes, and you came back, and you're like, I got somebody. And I was like, yeah, who is it? And you're like, this kid fucking 17 years old. I'm like, how heavy is he? You're like 150 pounds. I'm like, damn, I got some weight on him. But yeah, if he's down, like, sure, let's do it.
Actually, I think I told you, all right, let him drive.
Yeah.
that makes a huge difference too. I mean, when you have somebody 260 as your passenger versus 150, and then you change out in a
Boat
weekend or whatever,
totally different.
It really does.
And I
in
really,
the corner, down the straight. It's
But what was so cool about that is, and I guess I probably should talk about that a little bit, is so your rider there was Peyton Hanna.
Yeah.
And Peyton is the son of Kirk Hanna, who drives and owns North Myrtle Beach RV, runs in Pro Stock V. And so he did. You came up to me. We were all having a beer, just kind of hanging around.
Just bullshit.
And you said to me, "Man, I'm screwed. I can't. I just got nobody to ride with me. I can't go out
I
by
knew I
myself."
was gonna find somebody. I would have suckered somebody into
Well,
it, but I figured
I'm like,
you knew the people.
he would have had to pay
around.
somebody like he paid for that buoy for the first place that day.
Hey, dude, that
Cost him
buoy
$250 for first place.
Hey,
but
it was totally
I guess
fucking worth it.
Those 10 points were worth it at the end of the day.
Totally
so.
worth it.
But cost him an extra $250 for the season.
That is what
So
it is.
I took a walk through the pits and I found Peyton, and Peyton was all in, right?
Yeah.
And Peyton was in because he was looking at building a Class 7 boat and was thinking,
Yep.
like, all right, let me get my feet wet, try some kind of racing and see what's up, you know? So I knew better than to tell him.
Oh, that was his first boat ever being in, like race boat?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
So
my God.
First race boat.
What a
first
ride.
RV,
Well, so I'm
first time
thinking-
in the water.
I'm
Dude
thinking to
deserves a pat
myself,
on the back.
anybody who watches this show will
took
know
him
the
for a
story
ringer.
that Steve Adams did this to me. Suckered me in. I was 15 years old, and Steve Adams said, just go for a ride, man. It's a blast. You're going to love it. And I was trying to jump out of the boat in turn 2. So when I walked up to Peyton, I'm like, I can't tell him. Like, I can't tell him or he won't do it, you know? So I'm like, if he's in, I'll go tell Zach.
You
and then-
really got to, like, sweet talk him into it
So,
in a way.
but
Like,
I brought him down there. Zach threw him up in the boat, and he was at home right away. He was digging
Yeah.
it, you know. And I'm like, all right, this is cool. And all of a sudden, it dawned on me. I'm like, I should probably ask his parents.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
signing him up, getting him
so
all
here we
going
are.
on.
It's 2:00 in the morning. We come walking up to the bus. They're staying in an RV there in the parking lot, you know. And I bang on the door. Kirk comes out, half asleep. Got a race the next day, you know. I'm like, all right. I'm like, I need you to come down here with me. I need you to take a walk. Well, for what? You know, I'm like, just trust me. You just trust me. You know, so he comes walking down there, and I'm thinking he's going to look at me and go, are you out of your fucking mind? I'm not putting my son in there. You know what I mean?
No, he was all
He
about
goes,
it.
all right, I'm in. Right?
Yeah.
So they went the next morning and rented a pontoon boat
Yeah.
so that they can come out and watch the race from the course, right? So I'm like, how cool is this? Here's the family of Offshore, right, that just got involved, and they're having a great time, and the kid's running with Zach, and this is going to be a fucking awesome thing, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm so happy about this, right? Fast forward, Shanky's boat's upside down, broken in half. John's swimming in the water. John's boat's over here. And I'm like, all I'm thinking is, not only was Peyton in that boat, but Kirk rented a boat and was watching
it,
from
yeah.
right there,
Yeah.
dude. I'm like, oh my God, right? We get back in. Kirk walks up and goes, that's racing, dude.
Yeah.
I'm like, holy shit.
Well, the funniest part about it, we were like, yeah, the boat might go over. I was like, I'm gonna give you a full ride, man. I was like, hopefully we don't go over. And he's like, well, when do I let go? And you looked at him and you were like, you'll know when to let go. And once we got in and everything, he was like, I knew when to let go when your ass hit me in the head.
Did you bring your seahorse? Because you
Nah,
got a seahorse.
nah, I
You guys
didn't.
both got a seahorse.
I
Okay,
didn't
so
bring it.
I have a seahorse here.
Steve's holding it up to the camera. We'll stick it in.
Yeah.
I designed it this year. I kind of redid the patch, and I took a lot of pride in redesigning it and making it something cool. I said, if these guys are going to earn it, I want them to have something cool to put on their chest or in their sock drawer or
It's
whatever.
not the best thing to earn.
No, it's really not. But like I said, if you're going to earn it,
But
at
to
least
us-
make it look cool. And
Yeah.
But to
It-
us,
it-
it's a badge of honor.
It
Oh,
is.
absolutely.
Well, that's what it is. It's a badge
Yeah.
of honor. I mean, you get points for being thrown out of the boat. Nobody wants to be thrown out of the boat ever, but
Yeah, I didn't get no points because it was after our season.
No, that sucks. Well, good thing it wasn't a points race because I would have beat you overall.
Yeah. Good thing it wasn't.
Because I got first, so.
There you go. You're the Moorhead champ.
Yeah.
Till next
But
year.
we, like I said, we all had our races. We won, we lost. It was a great year. It was awesome. I couldn't ask for anything better. No. He came out. I kept me on my toes all year. I kept him on his toes.
Yeah.
I mean,
it was just competitive.
Well, and that's honestly so. Like I chase that now.
Yeah.
You know, people. I'm building a skiff to come race with you guys because of that. Like, so I don't mean this in a negative way to Offshore. You guys don't know how often I get kicked in the balls for saying the shit that I say to you guys. But it's not that I don't love Offshore anymore. I do. I am so infatuated with Offshore. I love it more than myself. Okay, but I don't have the time anymore. I show up to an Offshore race and it's work from start to finish. Every bit of it, and it's
a whole weekend event too.
And
like
it's all positions that I can't delegate. Like I can't say, okay, you go do this because I have a boat to race this weekend. I can't do that. So I'm now on the sidelines for the foreseeable future until something changes, right? Which I don't see anything changing. So I was kind of like not bummed, but like that boat up there is my boat. Mm-hmm. Like my brother and my old man compete in my boat. I don't have time to run it anymore, right? So
and it's a beautiful boat.
I ran it one time just to say I did it, and that was it. They run it,
yeah.
And that's up for sale, right now.
It's for sale, and it just it kills me. Like you have no idea how bad I want to do that, but it's just like I can't. So when I started hanging out with you guys, I'm like, oh, I can do this. Like
it's just a Sunday afternoon for us.
It's easier.
Yeah.
It's
really
easier because
we start 10 o'clock. 9 o'clock. Start teching in and everything else, and we go live at noon, and we're done by 2, 3, maybe 4 o'clock if it's a long
4
day.
o'clock is like when people start.
Depends on
rolling
intermission
out.
and stuff like that, you know.
I mean,
and what's cool to me is it's all the shit that we already covered, but it's the cost effectiveness, all that stuff it's all there for me.
Shanky proved it. I mean, honestly, for under 10 grand, you can turnkey go racing for a year.
Yeah.
Me, I had to spend a little bit more than that. But
I have guys that spend 10 grand in a race.
What was
like,
that?
I have guys that spend 10 grand at a race.
That's what I'm saying.
Like for instance, the Pro Stock V class or Stock V class, whatever. Last year for whatever reason, 3 out of the 7 boats at every race spun around and blew gimbals off the back, blew drives off the back. Now every time you do that, like just buy a new Bravo and gimbals, 15 grand.
You could just say it as simple as how much money do you guys spend in fuel?
Well, yeah. Honestly, you probably spend more because we're not burning race fuel. But
we don't have to burn race fuel.
Yeah, no. See, I could pull up to the pump.
I could burn pump too,
and legit pump 5 gallons in my boat. And race
we
all
try
weekend.
to get the extra.
But it's crazy.
And that's the part of the comp.
It's crazy.
Being
you want to know
so
really
competitive.
Where it's at. This is really where it's at. For a propeller, for one propeller for my boat, I could buy a Garvey.
Easily.
God's honest truth.
Easily.
Our propellers are, I think, $800 to $1,000, depending on who you get it from.
$6,000. They started $6,000, but you got the prop. That's junk. You have to send that out and have it cupped and have it tweaked and have it and run it and then call the guy and say, well, it didn't do this that I want.
It's
or
doing
it didn't
this,
do that.
and then you got to send it back.
Yeah. By the time you're done, a prop is $10,000.
I mean, for $700 a year for your membership, I mean, you get we got 8 races this year. You're less than $100 a race.
You're running the offshore.
You can't go anywhere, whether you're racing dirt track, pavement, wherever. It doesn't matter.
See, I'm happy you said dirt track because we pretty much are dirt track cars of the water.
Well, when I explain it to people, I say, listen, I said we are the NASCAR on water.
I wouldn't even say NASCAR because dirt track cars are way nastier than NASCAR in my point of view.
And here's the other thing. What does every retired NASCAR driver do? Go dirt track racing as soon as they're done. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's how I feel. Like, it's like, I love offshore. Everything that comes with it, it's great. But if I'm done, this is where I'm going.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you're talking to some average Joe that don't know a nut from a bolt. You know what I mean? Like, you say dirt track, they're like, what's that? So you say NASCAR, it's one of the public. So it gets an easy understanding real quick.
Sure.
So it just throws it across the board.
But to me, it's like when you were bringing up earlier.
You are right. That dirt track is nasty, and it's awesome.
It is. And see, to me, like I come from a world where my constant worry is the professionalism side of things. Like, is it clean enough to sell to a big sponsor? Is it, is it this? Is it that? And then we get to this stuff, and it's like we just get to be us. Like that, and that's what actually makes it awesome. Like, it's not a pullback. Like, for us, we got to put these collared shirts on and these hats on, and then, you know, thank you to this sponsor, because if I don't say that, I don't get this money, and you know what I mean? And it's like, with you guys, it's like, I'm just here to race my fucking boat.
Half
you know what I mean?
the time I was shirtless.
I was gonna say you're lucky if half of us have our shirts on.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
it feels like going to the event feels like you went to your buddy's backyard barbecue, and by the way, there's like the coolest shit ever happening in the backyard. Like,
well,
it's like,
and I tell people, I'm like, when you come, it's that party that you don't want it to leave or stop.
yeah, exactly.
Honestly,
it's like when it's over, I'm like, oh, like, can't we do this? Like,
And
we still
see,
have daylight.
we got to wait 2 weeks for the next one.
Yeah. See, and I realized, like, after our races, everybody that races, we always end up going to somebody's house.
Yeah, we do an after party
Yeah.
at
So-
a
so,
different
like,
person's
nobody
house.
wants
every,
our end.
Our race
No.
day turns into an all-night party for all
Yeah.
of us.
Yeah, half
every
of us don't
weekend.
flush our boats out till
And you know what?
Monday. This dude never flushes his boat.
I would wait until
but-
Saturday, the day before the next race.
That's how you make sure it runs.
Yeah, dude.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that.
Hey,
Kill me with the lack of maintenance.
Hey, man.
but it is what it
if
is.
it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I hear you.
I just
Well,
something
your boat's broke now, so you better fix it.
something you touched on.
It'll be
and
out.
You never know who's going to listen to this or watch this. And you know, something you touched on that I'd like to see is, I love that everybody goes back to a house
Yeah.
or whatever, right? I think that's cool. Something that we do is the award ceremony,
Yep.
right? So when we're done racing, everybody knows those are dead hours. So when the race course ends, there's like 3-4 dead hours. There's just
Yep.
nothing going on. That's just for you to get the salt off your boats, flush them, put a clean shirt on, and then we're going to have an awards ceremony where everybody comes and gets their trophies. And so for this year, I think we're going to try and go and get some trophies done for you guys. And I want to see, like, if there's a local place, since now this doesn't work for 100% of the races, because, like, we have one in Lake Apacong, we have Summers Point,
Yeah.
they're stretched out. But for the ones that are local, if maybe we can get a hub, like maybe Win from Breezes, Nyerk. If maybe somebody would just say, like, hey, we'll give you this spot every Sunday night that you guys race, and then when you guys are done, I'll pack up my shit, go over there, get the trophies unboxed, get everything ready to rock and roll, and we'll do something where we can all be together. Because one thing I noticed is everybody goes opposite directions, which is just natural. It's not
Yeah.
by design.
Yeah.
It's just like, I got to go home and take care of my shit. I got to
Yep.
make sure my dogs eat and yada, yada, yada. And then people end up in different places.
Yeah.
It would be great if we just had like one place we could all go to, because this club has a cool vibe to it where it's like, it's a bunch of people that are genuinely just there for one reason. Like, it's like in my sport, there's a whole plethora of the types of people that race a boat, from the guys that are just doing it for fun to the guys that take it so seriously that it's their morning, noon, and night, and everything in between, right? With you guys, it's like, we're just here to race. Like, if we win, if we lose, if
It
we
is what it is.
nobody gives a shit. We just want to race, and at the end of the day, we just want to like go grab a beer and talk about how bad I kicked your ass.
Yep.
Like, that's
Yeah.
and
Just
to me,
here to her feelings.
It's bragging rights,
And
man.
I don't-
that 10. I say $10, but I know it's more than $10. But the $10 piece of trophy, that's nothing. It's the bragging rights, and it's the I kicked your ass. Well, yeah, you kicked my ass this weekend.
the trophy is like an analogy. Like, the trophy's like something, like it just represents something. Like, it's not like nobody's actually trying to win that trophy.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, but just getting the trophy to say you didn't get it is worth every penny.
Well, because
You know?
I think we're all so thick-skinned too.
I want banter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the banter, the shit talking.
I want
it
that.
doesn't stop, dude.
Yeah.
No.
It doesn't stop. It's constant.
Our season ended, what, fucking 8 months ago?
yeah.
So our season ended 8 months ago, and I'm still talking shit to Steve to this day.
You have to until
and
he beats
he's
you.
gonna hold it
It's
until
the
I'm
rules.
back up in points.
Uh-huh.
Like,
And then when he wins, he's not going to let you hear the end
No,
of that
but
shit.
I'll still be talking shit the whole time, even if
it's
he beats
okay.
me.
I just, to
I got
me,
rookie of the year.
that's my favorite.
That's
But that's my favorite aspect of this club is it's genuine. It's the thought process behind it is not, you know, we're a bunch of guys that are taking ourselves way too seriously, and you know, it's a bunch of guys that really, really are behind this for the right reason, you know, and that to me is important because I tend to deal with a lot of people that aren't in it for the right reasons, and that sucks the fun out of it for me. So like when you guys come up to me sometimes and say, hey man, thank you for doing this, or thank you for doing that, or thank you, I honestly don't need it, because it's me that should be thanking you guys, because I needed this. I needed the escape. Like, offshore is my world. It's what goes on Monday through Friday, Saturday through Sunday. I needed this. Like, I needed a world where I can just go be. See, I don't know if you'll get this. Most of my guys will, right? But there is a clear difference between a spec class and a bracket class, as in the people, right? Spec class generates this. It's NASCAR. It's power to weight ratios. It's rules and spec engines, and right. And those guys, whether they try to or not, develop this competitive nature where it gets toxic. Like, it's like we're all trying so fucking hard to win. And really in those classes, it doesn't boil down to the skill in the boat. It boils down to the boat. Exactly. So you get this very defensive nature. Like, even if you win, you get the guy that's like, well, I didn't win because I spent more money, or I'm just better than you. And then that guy's like, no, fuck you. It's because your prop is worth more than my boat.
That's what killed Steve is I didn't do any maintenance to my boat, and he worked on his boat every day after the race.
I changed my oil constantly.
Nope. I didn't put no effort in, so it really hurt his feelings when I won.
But if I were to do what he did, like I said, with my luck, I would have went out every race and nothing. Nothing. And I'm like,
to me, I
got to work for it.
It's sentimental to me because the other side of this is bracket class. So that's where I lived. That's where I grew up, right? And those people are you guys. The bracket class racers are you guys. They're there to race. And that's it, right? And my favorite thing was, and I've told this story way too many times on the podcast. I apologize for people that have heard it a million times. But me and John Cohen, who owns Superboat, right? So when I moved up to Class 5, I was 8 feet shorter than him, right? And we're bracketed to the same speed. We're running the same motors, but we're out here in 8-footers, and I'm in a 22, and you're in a 30. You know what I mean, right? And on top of that, John grew up in those boats. His father is the CEO, creator, and owner of Superboat. So from the time he was born, he grew up in that boat. So that became the only thing I could think about was beating him. Because to me, he was the king. Because he could outdrive anybody on the course in any boat. But on top of that, he's in his own boat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That he grew up in, right? And it developed this nature where we would literally try to kill each other. Like this isn't a joke. Like, he cut me off in Atlantic City once when I was well over 20 feet in the air. There's a thing that we understand. When there's a difference between running a boat and flying a boat. Like, when you're running in the ocean and we're running through shit where we can't keep these things in the water, stay over there. Because anything can happen. Like, we don't, you know what I mean? Like, I'm in control, but I'm not. You know what I mean? Dude, he came across me, and it was such a dick move because he knew there was a broken down boat in the turn, and I didn't. So what he did was came across the front of me so that I couldn't hold him out and then dive inside the broken down boat. But we're in fucking small craft advisory swells. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is a move you would make on the Parkway. Not in boats. You know what I mean? And this started it. That whole year, I tried to throw him out. I would get in front of him, and my brother would wait and let him get right up close to us, and we would just kill him in every turn. We'd sit out wide, let him go in, and I'd just come across the front of him and try and spin him out every race. You know, and it got to the point where we were fist fighting. Like, we were so angry at each other. We were so, right? And John is such a good guy because I give him a lot of credit. I was young and dumb, right? So I was just on fire all the time, right? And John, for as big of a knucklehead as he is, never took it personally. Like I did, but he didn't. And he taught me, like, this isn't what it's about. Yeah. This isn't me versus you. We're racing. We're trying to figure out who the better guy is. You're pushing me to a point where I have to cut you off in a boat that doesn't belong running with me. You know what I mean? Like, you should be proud of that.
Pushing the boundaries all the way around. Like.
That when it happened, something switched for me. And I realized that this is the kind of people that I actually enjoy. Like, people that are there for the actual purest version of the sport, where we just want to go race, we just love what we do. That I like. When it turns into the look at me show and the sponsor show and how much money can I make and how much, I hate that shit. Yeah. Like, I repel that shit. So it's like hanging with you guys is like, now I have a whole organization that I get to go home to full of people that are my favorite people. You know what I mean? Like,
we're just like one big family, man. Like we all get together after the races. The camaraderie. Somebody's boat breaks. I helped him run out a battery pack. I mean, we're not just gonna be like, screw you. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, we're gonna help you out.
Yeah.
We don't want to. One, we don't want to win like that, and two,
right. No real racer does.
No.
No.
So
No
it's
real
like,
racer wins in the parking lot. It's happened to me. I had a world championship stripped from me because of crybaby racers. And it's like, I hate that shit. Beat me on the water.
And
If you want to
that-
beat me in a parking lot, it's going to get ugly.
That's like nobody
Yeah.
tore down this year. Everybody, it was even. I mean, you're gonna get the faster guy, but guess what? Either do a little bit more homework or tune something in, whatever.
Well,
do some prop testing, whatever.
and appreciate the faster guys. So,
Yeah.
and this is just an example that comes to mind, but like Superstock, when the Yellows showed up, right? And I'm not talking shit about anybody, right? But you have Paul and John in that class who had been battling all year, right? And they were 5-10 feet away from each other the whole time,
Yeah.
right? Yellow comes out and puts a lap on them.
Yep.
And it's like, part of me was sitting there watching that race and going, right? And then part of me was like, no, this is a great thing. Because they were running their boats thinking this is as hard as we can run them. And then some guy just came out here and showed you can run them a whole
blew
lot
their
harder.
doors, yeah.
And like, to me, you need that guy. Like, you need the bar setter so that everybody else has something to chase. Because if not, everybody just winds up like John and Paul, we're glued together
Yeah.
now. And you need the guy that comes out and just pushes the pace.
That's why championship race, we all wanted it. We all wanted to be that guy that everybody's shooting for.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Now
why that
that-
race got gnarly.
Now
real quick.
this year, Jimmy's got the target on his back since he was a champion in last year. So I know Shanky's been wanting a piece of him all year. I know I
Yeah.
want a piece of him now since
I
we had
do
to swap
too.
lanes. So
What would be nice, and I know you guys really like the fact that you run in saltwater, and I do too, right? And I hear that a lot because a lot of the guys that run your style boats are all lake guys. You know what I mean? So I get it. There's a cool factor to that. But what's really cool about the lakes is you get that consistent water. Like when we run Lake Apacong this year, you can bet your ass it's glass.
oh yeah,
Yeah, we're all going to be slow.
Yeah,
we're
well,
gonna be slow, but
because it's
a lot
fresh.
more
Yeah.
suction. And,
But it's flat, so you
Yeah.
can run. You can run and make moves on the
but
race
that's
course.
also the problem. It comes back and bites you on the fresh water because half of us haven't ran on fresh water. We test, we do everything on salt water.
Yeah.
Right.
So the minute we get on fresh water, think we could do what we can on salt water.
gonna be a total
you got
different
another
ballgame.
thing coming for you,
Well,
buddy. You
I
might be
suggest
taking
get
a
there.
swim.
It's gonna be a long
You might be getting a
weekend.
couple more of these.
It's going to be a long weekend.
And that's why the boys should get there and test and learn. Race
I'm a
courses
big
change.
believer in like at least
know?
like Summers Point. I went down and tested the day before, and
Right.
it was rougher the day before than it was race day. And I went out and I tested, and Austin was my co-pilot that on the test day, and he goes, "Do what you did today." He goes, "You should have no problem."
Right.
And the next day it was smoother, and everybody was like, "Oh, this is rough. This is rough." I said, "Well, you should have been here yesterday." I said because today's a walk
Right.
to the park. You know what I mean?
Well, and there's something too where like the reason why I'm saying this is because like the rough water also presents a weird challenge to you guys that I didn't necessarily understand before. So like Bavacqua came up to me championship day and was like, "I'm just not feeling it today, man." And I'm like, "Well, then don't do it." Like if your heart isn't in it, don't do
It's
it.
that bad feeling that you know what I
Right.
mean?
Like, and listen, and my normal analogy would have been just go out there, and if you don't like it, just run easy, right?
Yeah.
Not realizing you kind of can't.
You can't.
no,
You
there
kind
is
of can't.
no running easy.
There's no easy, and like I didn't know that. Like in my head, I'm thinking like my boat. Like if I go out and it's a day that I don't want to participate in, I just don't participate in it. You know what I mean? Like I'll still go out and I'll still run my laps and I'll see what happens, and if maybe there's a spot I could poke my nose in, whatever. But I'm not going to do something I'm not comfortable with. Not realizing like in these, if you're not running them, they're more fucked up.
yeah.
And
Like they run their best when you got them sold out. And
they really do. You got to be
yeah,
straight
and I didn't
flat.
realize that. So, like for instance, when guys were coming in, like even Moorhead, and saying to me, like it was rough out there, they were saying it in a way where it was like my fault, right? And I'm walking away like I don't fucking control the water, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
like now I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, that's
No,
why.
but that's why we wanted the course to be moved in.
well, so did I. I tried
I know
that.
there was a bunch of fighting,
But-
on
but
the other
here's
end
the
because of
upside to it.
intercoastal water or whatever.
But now that they've seen it, they understand
well,
what
they
they need to
understand
do.
what we need
Exactly.
And we could say till we're blue in the face. They don't understand until they see it first person,
Exactly.
and then they're like,
And
"Ok-
nobody does.
Okay,
And
you
nobody
guys set
does.
mayhem. We want that closer to shore, so we could at least still run our races."
Well, and it's funny because like the guys
Yeah.
from Moorhead would
Because
tell
we
me,
shut down the race for about an hour.
yeah, but listen, dude, we plan for that shit. We do that shit. We're not one of these organizations that is like, if something fucking happens, it's like,
We
oh
just
no,
felt so bad. Within 10 minutes, we destroyed half our fleet, and
dude. If
Dude,
you
just
if
caused
you think-
mayhem.
It
and-
was
and-
mayhem.
That's that. Listen, it was mayhem.
was carnage.
It was Listen,
Absolute
here's
carnage.
Here, I say this all the time. The worst thing you've ever dealt with is the worst thing you've ever dealt with. Okay, so to you guys, that was mayhem. To me, that was race one. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's,
Yeah.
I'm used to mayhem, and I like mayhem. Like, I like when crazy shit's going on and shit's flying at you and you're making decisions in real time. I like that shit. So, like, when shit like that happens, it's no slight to you guys from us. Like, to me, I looked at that and went, well, I can't believe they came down here and ran the shit out of them like that. You know, like, in my head, I thought you guys were coming down because the notion from me is if you guys want to run these joint events, right, what I need is a showcase. What I need is for you guys to come down and show these guys who you are and what you do. And now I have something to go sell. Right? Like, but trying to explain it does nothing, right? Like I've tried every which way from Sunday. Like, all right, they're not going to get it if I get real scientific with it. So I'll say, like, kick your front door off the hinges and bolt a small block to it, right? And I'm like, that doesn't work because that just sounds like fucking terrible. You know what I mean? Like, and there's no way to, until you see it, there's no way to understand it. So in my head, you guys were coming down. You were going to run some soft laps. I knew there was some rivalry. So I'm like, okay, they'll pick a day and these guys will go at it. Just thinking like how this normally would work. Not realizing you guys were just going to go out there and dogfight. Just whoever could win was going to try and win.
That's the way we always do it. I mean, even in that one interview at Tuckerton, me and Shanky said we're two Beartown boys. We come out and we're going to come out and throw 110% at it every race. I mean, well, he's going to earn his win. I'm going to earn my win at the end of the day.
Well, and just so you know,
he earned his 10 points this year.
Oh, 100%.
Well, and I didn't look at that situation.
Steve earned
his
loss, that's for sure.
I didn't look at that situation just so you know and say like, oh, you know, this is, you know.
Are you Irish?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you got the luck of the Irish with you, man.
Yeah.
You must sleep with a fucking 4-leaf clover. You must sleep with a 4-leaf clover underneath your pillow, dude.
Hey, if I was lucky, my boat wouldn't have been damn near cut in half.
No, I think she was like, yo, change the oil on me and maybe fucking we can go the whole season, bro.
I didn't have to change the oil because it just leaked out. I added it when I needed it.
Yo, speaking of sponsors, dude.
I know. I need to hit up Flex Seal.
Well,
and then,
I heard they're coming out with a bilge coat.
I'll probably use it.
I heard you're getting a couple gallons, dude.
Hey, dude, I will gladly dump it in the bottom of the boat because it sealed the bottom.
See, this is what we love. It's just the shit talk.
Hey, it was easier than ripping everything apart and resealing it when I could just dump some fucking Flex Seal around it, letting it harden up.
Some Mr. Gasket all over the engine.
Hey, dude. The timing chain cover was the problem at the one race.
You wait for that shit to start turning the putty, and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna press it in every crease.
Yeah, the timing chain cover leaked so bad during the one race. I had all of the oil out of the motor and the bottom of the boat by the time I got done the race. And for the next race, I just went and added more oil. And I knew it was going to come back into the boat, but I was not going to not run that race.
It just means it wasn't going to rust.
I knew when I was doing good because I didn't smell oil. I was out front. When I smell oil, I'm like, man, Shanky's out front. I see it.
You knew where I was at all times because I just had smoke boiling out of the headers all the time.
So a lot of guys, especially if you go back and watch some of the older footage of these boats running, a lot of guys are doing that. Is that splashing up to the back of the pistons, or is that actually blow by?
So it's pretty much blow by. It's like when we come into the turns, like the force is forcing all the oil to the one side. So you'll see most of the fucking smoke coming out of the fucking one header.
Right.
So it's pretty much just going through our breather and just burning off in the exhaust.
We throw some serious G's, and I can't wait to do that testing. So when you bring out all the high tech equipment, I want to do a couple turns and see what the G's pull on the turns. Because
so this is
honestly
cool.
Because nobody knows exactly how many G's you pull on these turns.
No, you really don't.
I'll tell you what, you could be a 260 guy and ripped and work out at a gym, and you come in a turn like leaning forward. By the end of the turn, you're like this, and you're like, I can't hold on.
Yeah, that's how it was when I got thrown out of the boat in Moorhead. I held on to that steering wheel so fucking hard, man. I felt like if I was going to hold on to it any longer, the boat was coming with me.
And then you don't want to hold on too long because that's when you get messed up. You start tearing.
You could see in the video, like
I'm
like on my side, and I just let go of my hands, and you just see me fly out of the boat. Like, it felt like I was being sucked out of the boat by a fucking massive vacuum.
I've done it. It ain't fun. No,
it was gnarly. I hit the water and I popped up and I was like, "You fucking good, Peyton?" And he's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Fuck yeah, cool." And then I'm like looking around, I'm like, "Where the fuck's my boat at?" And I see it floating real far away. I was like, "What the fuck?"
I was just happy in that whole situation nobody got hurt.
Yeah.
It's just the danger that you guys deal with versus the danger that we deal with. I don't know that one is more dangerous than the other, but it's different danger.
Absolutely.
Like you said it earlier when you were talking about championship day, going into that turn on the inside, where Steve would have liked to have been. The truth is, when you rip that wheel, right, and anything happens, you go out the starboard side of the boat, the right side of the boat for the rookies. And when you do, that's in the path of everyone else.
Yep.
And like aside from that, if you take a side impact, an impact up the back or anything like that, you're the first thing the boat hits.
Yeah.
And I see some guys. I had a conversation. Do you guys know Richie Fairhurst?
Yeah.
So I had a conversation with Richie, and he's building a Class 6 boat to come run with us in Offshore, and he wanted to know if it was cool if he built a cage behind the seats. And I was actually questioning it at first because my initial thought process is always, what if you get thrown out? Like, if you get thrown out, I don't want you to hit the cage first. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, at least in the skiffs, you're belted in, right?
Yeah.
So, and you don't want somebody belted into an open boat. We allow that to happen with the skiffs because of the frequency of another skiff hitting another skiff, right? So, but generally, you don't want somebody belted into a boat that's not canopied because at that point, you're underwater. There's no, like if we go over it, we do fill.
You got the oxygen, you got whatever. You wait for it to pressurize.
Right, but the situation you're actually worried about is if you're unconscious. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, like, if you're upside down unconscious in a skiff, I don't care if you have oxygen or not. You know what I mean? You're unconscious. And that's why we don't like belted open boats. But with the skiffs, it's a freak situation because of the frequency of a wing out and they land on top of each other, run across each other, right? Shit just happens. With you guys, Richie was talking about building something on a Garvey that would kind of roll back and around the back so that you couldn't be dead on impacted, and he wanted to kind of roll that thought process.
So he was taking like the skiff idea and throwing it towards an offshore boat in a way.
Exactly. And I said to him, I'm cool with that as long as the cage is far enough behind you to where you can't hit it on your way out. You know what I'm saying?
And it has no sharp edges, all that
shit.
All that other good stuff.
Right. But thinking about that, I'm like, man, it wouldn't be too hard to put just not a cage, but like a bar on the Garveys. And it doesn't have to be anything crazy, but it would stop the impact shot. Like, you know what I mean? Like the straight shot, like if you're coming into a turn, that straight shot up the corner, if there was something there to just deflect the boat away.
Honestly, these boats are pretty strong.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you're not.
Yeah.
So
no, we're
like,
not. But
if
it's
but look at the front. It's a ramp.
No risk, no reward.
Sure.
You want to play, and stupid
but
games. You're gonna win stupid prizes.
But none of us want to see something bad happen to somebody.
But,
and I think it's not something that I think I'm going to say everybody should do and yada yada yada. But it is something that could definitely improve the safety side of it and be worked on. Like, I'm not saying that's a good final product, because the Garveys are, man, I worry about you guys. I do. Like, I worry about you guys more than I worry about my own guys, because it's like, man, there's just so much shit that can go wrong so quick.
None of us think about it when we go out there.
Nobody does. No. Nobody does. I used to get in these fucking things and never once thought about danger, ever.
You really don't.
You're just thinking about what's going on and what you need to be doing.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is cool too, is in all this, something that we didn't really mention too much, is that you and Steve were both rookies when you started.
Yeah.
And so coming from, basically no background in this, which when I say basically, is it basically or no background?
No, I grew up around it.
Okay, so
I
basically,
know a bunch of,
so you have the knowledge, never really did it, right?
No, I never, I jumped in a few boats when I was younger and went for rides and shit like that, but nothing like during a race or.
Right. Well, the cool thing about that to me is usually you get rookies that come kind of on their own. Like, it's not every day that you see new people jumping into this stuff, So what was cool is that you guys kind of had a whole class of rookies. Mm-hmm. And I know to some that could sound like a bad thing, but I've been around this a long time. It was a great education for you guys.
Yeah.
To just lock horns with each other.
Yeah.
You're not out there with some veteran that at any moment could just say, see you later.
Yep.
Right? Because that just knocks the winds out of your sail.
Yeah, no. We were kind of all judging off of each other.
Yeah.
And learning how each other drove throughout the whole season to be like, okay, well, I know he does this at this point, so I can sneak around them then, or
Right.
so it's like,
Well, and it was cool to see you guys learn together because I see rookies come in and like I feel bad because like the green flag will go up. I'll watch all the boats come around, all the boats come around, all the boats come around, and then there's this rookie that's just trying, still on the first lap, you know, and it's like that guy's never gonna come back again. That wasn't fun, you know what I mean? And it's like it was so good to see just all you guys come out and run together where it was similar skill levels.
yeah.
You know, and that was cool because I know it could make for bad racing, but it didn't. It made for great racing.
Oh, absolutely. Me and
Yeah.
Steve had a killer season racing each other.
Yeah, I was just saying, sorry, Steve was pissing. I just said to Zach that the coolest thing was the fact that it wasn't like a sprinkle of rookies. Like in offshore, if I get a new team, it's pretty rare. You know what I mean? Like there's not just, even in this, there's not just tons of new people, right?
Yeah.
So it was cool to see like you guys pop up as first timers because it gave you an opportunity to not go out there with a bunch of veterans that would just at any moment, they'll run with you for a minute, you know, and then they'll just see you later. Bye. That is so demoralizing. It's like I'll never get there.
Well, this was like the perfect year to be a rookie and step into Garvey racing. Like honestly, like every year after, it's gonna be hard for the rookies. It really is because every year we're just gonna start
getting better,
gaining more and more knowledge. But I mean, the first race, if we had 14 boats, I think 12 of us were rookies.
Yeah.
That is absolutely like
insane,
mind blowing.
It's insane, and it's crazy. Like, and it's what I was saying before about how the whole clientele changed. Like when I was around, it was all the older guys, right?
Beat up boats. I mean, they
and
just
now,
do whatever they got to do to get out on the weekend. And
and no offense to the older crowd, but these young guys are hungry.
Yeah,
and they're and these boats are showing up in nice shape. And I was saying to Matt and Anthony when they came in, they were like making a joke about it, but you guys don't have a whole bunch of failures. Like I used to come to these races and the first heat would have 4 boats in it. The second heat would have 4 boats in it. The third heat would have 2 boats in it. The fourth heat would have 1 boat in it. You know what I mean? And it's like, man, this just sucks.
No,
you
we
know?
actually lucked out really well this year with nobody really breaking down or breaking things.
Not a lot. Like I know shit
and if
broke.
they did break by the next race, they were
Well,
back in the
even-
water,
even
ready
if,
to
like,
go.
even you torched your top end. You were back in a week.
yeah. Like I said, that's why you
But
got to
you
do what you got to
only-
do to crank out.
But you only get that from the young, hungry guys.
Yeah, and-
like I'm telling you, even myself, I've been racing long enough. Like if I was in your shoes and I'm looking at 7 3 a.m.ers to get this thing back together, I'm like,
it's gonna be 7 3.
I'm gonna miss this next one. You know what I mean? Like it's just I've been doing this shit too long.
Yeah.
You only get it from this new crowd, and the fact that there was so many of you is unheard of. There's no sport that races on the water that just has a full class, like a full, almost an entire roster of rookies. Like it's a great thing because there's only up to go now.
And at any given time, like one of the racers, like you never know, like because we all will chip in, help in, whatever. They might have a set of heads on them, a distributor, whatever. You have no idea. An extra carb, like it doesn't hurt to ask, especially when you're at the race. And like I said, nobody wants to win by a parking lot.
No, dude.
It
was
what I mean?
cool.
It's.
I looked at last season when we were done with last season. I was pretty over the moon about it because I work real hard at what I do to basically maintain normalcy, right? And with you guys, there's no ceiling right now. Like that's the only way I can explain it. I don't see a ceiling for you guys. Like
The sky's the limit, man.
Yeah, like I don't know that you guys really realize this or not, but this is so marketable. Like so marketable. You could be anywhere with this because our biggest problem is when we go somewhere and I say I want to have a race in your town, right? And they say, "Okay, that's great." And then I go, "Okay, but I'm going to need like 200 grand. You're going to have to relieve all the cop overtime. You're going to have, right?" And they go, "Yeah, never mind." And I leave, right? With you guys, it's like, "We want to race here." They're like, "Okay, what do you need?" Nothing. Just tell me we can.
We just want the acceptance of saying yes.
Just tell me we can. That's all I need. And they're like, "Okay,
we'll bring people in. We'll spend money in the town.
Dude,
we all like to drink."
We went down to Summers Point like 3 weeks ago to sign all the new deals and all down there. And I'm talking to the board there with Christian, and so we're going through. I'm trying to bring Offshore there and run a joint event where we run in the ocean and you guys run in the bay, which would be fucking awesome, right? But the offshore side, naturally, is fucking impossible to set up. It's just they're like, our town's too small, the traffic that you generate, the everything, right? So I go, all right, let's just be done with that. What about the 2 JSBR events? They're like, oh, you're good. Like that was it. They're like, oh, you're good. Same thing as last year. I'm like, yeah. They're
And the
like,
funny
you're good.
thing is we're a lot louder because we're constant noise,
Dude.
And you guys
I
go out
didn't
to the
say-
ocean and don't see it.
Listen, Summers
half the
Point.
race.
If you're listening, earmuffs, okay. But they're like,
They're
wouldn't
not
the-
that bad.
They're like, wouldn't the offshore boats like break windows and shit? Like you're right here in the bay, and I'm like, well, they're loud, but they're not that loud. You know what I mean? And so whatever, that goes by, and then they're like, okay, so JSBR, you're good, and we walk out of there. I look at Christian and I go, do they know that the little ones are twice as loud? like twice as loud. Like the offshore
really
boats. The offshore boats, 90% of them are running wet exhaust.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like it's the little boats are twice as loud, if not three
Only
times
ones that
as loud.
run wet exhaust with us are skiffs.
Right, and only one.
Yeah.
The other one's running dry exhaust out the top too. So it's like I sit there and I'm like, are you guys nuts? The little ones are louder. You know? But it's just, to me, it's just, this is what I'm saying. And people are going to start to realize it. It is everything that offshore is and then some.
I think we're gonna get more of a following. We're gonna get a bunch more people interested in wanting to race. I mean, it's already, people have been asking where can I get a boat, and Christian, I guess he's gonna start popping molds out and doing things, and I guess Art said he wants to pop molds out, and
Yeah,
the
Christian's
molds
ready to rock.
the molds are still alive. I know.
Molds are everywhere.
Shanky just got a mold from me that is his mold of his boat.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's nice to have the mold of your boat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
It really is, because
It's the only way to fix them.
And the cool thing about it, it's my boat, my mold, and then there's only one other boat of my boat.
Right.
So I have 2 of 3
Right.
that I'm trying to get the third one now.
Right. It's cool.
Yeah.
So
No, and really, like, I think there's a spectrum here too. Like, what Christian have in molds, see, what Christian offers you is the legitimacy side. So, like, when we race in Summers Point, for instance, there's logic in the places we go. So, like, I do this with offshore. You're going to want to start moving into new areas. And I'm not saying that you maybe run these areas consistently, like you make this a part of your every year schedule, but you have to block off a part of your schedule where you just run one and dones, right? Because every time you go to a new place, you drag in all new fans, all new people that are like, maybe I want to try this, or maybe they just become fans, or maybe they buy a t-shirt. But one way or another, it's good to go to a new place, right? So like Summers Point, for instance, if you throw a rock in Kennedy Park, there's a good chance you hit a millionaire, right?
Yeah.
So if you drive up that road where Kennedy Park is, there's 3 skiffs on that road. I don't know if you guys know that. But when you're coming down to Kennedy Park on the right-hand side, there's 3 houses all in a line that have skiffs. No cages, beautiful skiffs just sitting there. Okay, so this is my point. You get somebody like that wants to come racing, they're not going to call Art. They're not going to call Zach. They're going to want to call a company.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you need that. You need that side of it. It doesn't mean that you can't backyard build a boat. I said this to Matt and Anthony. If you walk out in that shop, it's what we're doing. Just because we own a location doesn't mean we're not the ones building it. It would be no different if we were building it in our backyard or if we were building it right here. We're still backyard building. I'm not calling Reggie Fountain and saying, build us a new 40. We're building it. It's out there.
I do all my own glass work.
You know,
I
so
mean,
it's not a me
I didn't know
taking it
how
away.
to.
It's not me like slamming the guys that are doing this out of their garages. The point is, you need a guy like Christian for the guys that won't deal with a no warranty,
Well, yeah.
with a no. You know what I mean? You gotta conquer that side of the base. You know what I mean? And who better than a guy that is all in? You know what I mean? Like he started coming around to races last year, and when I asked him to be your live stream commentator, he was like him and Hall. He never did anything like that before, and then showed up and was like, now not only is he there watching the race, but like now he has a job. So like he had to come around and learn everybody's names and learn all the boats and learn. And now you can't get him out of here. Like he wants to be a part of this.
I
you know?
enjoy him as a commentator. I really do.
I like Christian because like I think Christian brings.
He has a great personality.
He
man.
brings a
It's-
unique energy because to me, Christian's like he cracks me up because he's the king of these analogies. I think what he called James James Duranzik was a cross between Conor McGregor and a golden retriever. I'm like, where the fuck did he get that one from? You know, but that's what you get with Christian. You get
He
this
called
like
me the shirtless German all year.
right,
Yeah, he did.
right. It,
Yeah,
like,
he did.
Where do you come up with this?
but see, like, if that came from someone else, it would probably insult you. But the way Christian does it, it's like your buddy breaking your balls.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, I like that.
and
like,
I
that's
didn't
cool.
even know him.
Yeah, I think he's great for it. You know,
he's awesome.
and he's knowledgeable in that he understands like how to build a boat, how to run a boat. But he's cool because he never did this before. So it's like a whole new thing for him too. So, and he's just like me, where it's like, oh, something new, I'm in. You know what I mean? So it's cool. It's cool to see this all kind of come together. You know what I mean? Where it still exists exactly the way it always did, but now there's all this opportunity. You know, and it's like I really don't see where this club stops. Like the only thing that holds it back is that the local guys don't want to travel, right? Which is fine. But you can run the local circuit and have a national circuit at the same time.
You go to Tuckerton, you ask everybody in Tuckerton what a Garvey is. They could tell you how long it should be, what's in it.
Yeah.
You go to Summers Point, they don't know what a Garvey is.
No
and that's where the places where we need to be is the people that don't know what they are. Because we keep flooding, not saying we keep flooding, but if we keep flooding the same area, there's only going to be so much growth and exposure. You need to expand your horizon.
See, on the other side of it, though, is every one of us, we all work 9 to fucking 14 hours a day. So it's like we're all working every day of the week and then going home and working on these things.
Right.
So it's like some guys, they can't afford to do all the traveling for all these outside races. So that's why they want to stick around.
I think my old
here.
man says it best, like he said it at the party. It's no different in our world. Every one of these guys are doing the same shit. But they mortgaged their house. They don't own it.
Yeah.
That's it. Pop explains it the best. Like it's just we got addicted to something that costs way more money.
I own 3 race
It's
boats.
not that-
I think I'm almost right up there with mortgaging my house.
There you go. Right? So it's like we're all the same people. We all work the same jobs. But it's just we got addicted to something that ate us out of house and home. You know what I mean? And that's just the truth of it. Like, and it's like with this, that's the key. And it's what I pound on. Like it's the cost side of this.
Yep.
It's because the fun is there. We know the fun is there. We know the competition's there. We know the crazy side of the sport is there. But the cost thing is just like this diamond that's just laying in the ground and nobody realized it. Like, I don't know why. Like, we have offshore guys that have already bought boats. Team Shocker owns a skiff. They just bought a skiff. They're going to come racing. So this will catch fire because we have a lot of teams that go all in on a schedule, right? So, like, for instance, when we're saying 8 races, right? Yeah. Imagine what our 8 races are. We're going 1,000 miles to the race. We're going 1,000 miles home from the race.
Well, that's what makes it good about us is even if we race in Jersey and we got to go 150 miles one way, we're not going all the way to Florida. It's not an 18-hour trip because at the end of the day, that the road time does beat up on the boat, on the trailer, and everything else.
Everything.
It really does.
Like
I mean,
for us,
then you're worrying about somebody rear-ending your boat. I mean, we had Randy on the way back from North Carolina this year. All the way down, all the way back.
One of the few boats that made it through Moorhead.
We hit Jersey, and it was like we got off the ferry. It was like every man for themselves because we were home turf. And next thing we know, we're out of light. It wasn't
even like 2 miles from the ferry.
We were out of light, and all we hear is boom, and I'm like, that's a car into a boat.
That's exactly what
that's
I
a car into a boat.
Because you were in front of me, I was like, somebody just got rear-ended.
And I'm like,
and then we
said, no.
pulled away, and like I pulled over to the side, and I seen Randy just sitting on the road, and I'm like, motherfucker.
And it kills me because the whole time we were a convoy all the way back. I mean, even I think 2 of the OPA boats, a Class 7 and a Class 6, we seen them on that really long bridge. I don't remember the name of it.
In Virginia somewhere.
40-mile bridge or whatever it is. We seen them right about there. And they followed us all the way back. They convoyed with us all the way up. I mean, it was cool. I stayed right behind Randy.
We do the same shit.
And then we hit Jersey, and I split off, and I was like,
we don't get to do it so much because now we have to be there so early to set up the event and everything else. But that's the only way we rolled. You know, because this happened to me. I was sitting in a rest stop. We had 2 broken down trucks. For a while, we would go to races with 3 boats. So we ran a 388 skater, a 38 fountain, and a 24 all simultaneously. So my pop would be rolling the fountain, Anthony would be rolling the skater, I'd be rolling my boat, we'd be going down the road. Well, we had a truck breakdown. Anthony and Pop were stuck like a couple miles behind us, so we had swapped trucks around, got one that would run, ran to an auto parts store to get the other truck fixed. In the meantime, I was sleeping in that truck with the cat. You know, it's $1 million rig that's just sitting in a rest stop.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm sleeping in the truck. All of a sudden, dude, I woke up, my head bounced off the steering wheel. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm sitting stopped. I get out of the truck. An 18-wheeler pulled up like he was going to park in the spot next to us and then decided he wasn't going to do that and hung a left. Well, when you do that, off the back of the bob, the trailer swings this way. And the corner of the featherlight, right where it's the strongest, hit the stern drive right in the cavitation plate, dead straight, and pushed a 10,000-pound cat 6 inches on the trailer. That's how hard he hit it. You know, and I'm like, fuck, because now we're racing the boat, but it's not our boat. Like, we're running it for somebody else.
Yeah.
Now, on top of that, this thing's got Merc 1300s in it. At the time, they were running against Miss Geico, right? So I'm thinking to myself, this is a 160, 170 mile an hour boat. You're going to go put this in the water now after a tractor trailer just ran into the stern drive? Like, think about this. And my brother was like, fuck it. Ran it.
Randy's boat, unfortunately, took a lot of damage. I mean, it pushed it up on the trailer.
It bent the tongue of the trailer.
Right. Yeah, I remember. I got all the pictures.
Yeah.
Like, it honestly has me thinking, like, now I want to, like, start, I want to, like, create a hoop that I could manually just take off real quick.
I'll show you what to do. I'll show you what to do.
Put a hoop around the back of the boat. So
when we get out of here, I'll show you what to do. We're doing it on our fountain right now. We're just adding a tailgate to the trailer that's removable in case you want to ramp it. It's super simple to do.
Because we spend a lot of money on these boats and a lot of time. I know. My one boat I got.
But countless. It's not money.
That's my casket.
I'm
building
money.
my casket.
Yeah, it's not, and it's funny because it's not money. It's time.
It really is. Money is one thing, but time
you can't get it back. And what's fucked up? We had this happen.
Family, everything.
Well, we spun the fountain out once, and we blew the drives off it. And when we did, the props got together, right? So my old man and my brother are standing on the dock. The boat's coming up on the crane. Actually, Bob Teague from Teague Marine standing there. And Teague looks over, and Pop goes, just tell me the props aren't fucked, So Teague's like, don't look. Don't look. We come walking around the back of the boat. It was only hubs. All the blades were gone. It was 6 blade herrings. They got together, and there was no blades left. It was just the hubs, right? Pop's like, dude, like, that's irreplaceable. We had a set, and I remember what they were. That's how good they were. They were 32 herrings, and they would accelerate like 30s, but they would top end like 34s. They were just magical fucking props, and you could run them in anything because they would accelerate like small props, and if you were on a flat race, they would run the top end like big props. They were fucking golden.
Just goes to show you how important props are.
It's not money. You can't do that again. You know what I mean? Even if I still had one that was in one piece and I said duplicate it,
somebody duplicate
you can't.
Pitch on
impossible.
You can't. Like, that's the shit that you can't. Like, I can't take that. Like, when you kill time like that, like, that's years of tweaking those props. You know what I mean? Like, you can't get that back.
When a lot of our boats have been sold, a lot of the guys are like, oh, well, if you want it, you're going to have to pay extra for the prop. And a lot of guys don't want to pay extra, so then the prop doesn't go with the boat, and now you're doing all the time and testing.
And then some poor bastard buys the prop, thinking, oh, this was the fucking hot prop, buys it, puts it on his boat, don't run worth a shit.
Yeah.
And it's such a shitty game. It really is. Props are a motherfucker.
Because, like, you go through a lot of prop testing, and it's crazy what.
That's what I'm most excited for. Like really, like, I'm excited to get racing again, and I miss it. And you guys, I don't know if you know, like, I stopped racing in 2018, so that national champion jacket she's wearing is the last thing I ever did. And then 2019 happened. We put a deal together to put all the organizations in Offshore under one roof. We structured that. 2019 we ran it. OPA was the lead there. And in 2019 I decided this is too big. We had all the entities under one. We had an average boat count of 75 boats. So that was average. We could have had more. We could have had a little less, right? I'm looking at this like Pop needs help. Like, there's no way. This just went from our standard 40, 45 boat count to double overnight. Like, so I stepped back and helped him. That's the year we got fucked out of the World Championship because we didn't run one day because we were busy making sure everybody else could. And so it got to a point where I got so involved with it that I am where I am now. So it's been since 2018 that I've been in boats. Like Moorhead, I raced in Class 5 and won there and shit like that. But I'm not a one-and-done kind of guy. Like, I like to build a season. I like to build points. I like to build rivalries. And I like to have guys that when I'm coming to a race, I'm driving in a truck for 24 hours thinking how I'm going to beat these guys. That's what I want, right? I can't have that anymore. So, like, I want this. You know what I mean? Like, I want this. Yeah. I want this back. I want something where we live near each other. Like, this is something that I never had. Like, my guys, we only got to talk shit to each other 8 times a year.
Yeah, no.
I can come to your house.
Yeah, and do
that's like, dude, I just did an estimate today. It was 2 houses away from your father's house.
No shit. What, over on Commodore?
Yeah. So it's like, you know what I mean? Like, it's crazy how close we all live, and it just goes to show, like, we really are a tight group.
It's awesome. Like, I just want to, like, even if there's not a race
And
going
we're
on, I just want to put it in the water and go play.
It's not like we don't want people to come into our group, neither. We welcome everybody. Everybody with open arms.
Yeah, that's something that I was really surprised about, because I knew the one drawback to this that we're not talking about is the local side is an upside and a downside, because when things get ugly, it gets ugly in a local way.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So there's that side of it, right? And I was worried about, because the history of these clubs is they tear themselves apart from the inside out, right? And I'm looking at this going, man, it's all new people. It's all new everything, right? So I'm like, hopefully that doesn't exist, right? And we went all season with me sweating, and it never happened. Like, guys are keeping straight. Guys are liking what they're doing. The group is cool. And that invites other people to the group. Like, if you realize last year, we had a lot of APBA guys just give it a shot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because you're not assholes.
and we're gonna have more this year. I mean,
Yeah, and I don't know what those APBA guys are doing. There's nothing for you at APBA. They suck. Like, come run with JSBR. There's nothing there. You know what I mean?
And we don't have a lot of the restrictions like everybody else.
Yeah, and their
does.
archaic rule book.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, come run with us.
Everybody has a rule book, but we try to keep it simple. I mean,
Listen, it's just,
we don't want to take the fun out of the sport. That's what it is.
it's not.
Maybe you put too many rules.
Well, maybe I should be a little more specific. The rule book's not archaic. It's just they're running parts that you can no longer get, which is making the engine building process for these boats in those classes extremely fucking hard to do and really expensive. And it's right down to stamping shit with the APBA stamps. And I understand keeping it legit and keeping it teched and keeping it competitive. I understand that. But there's plenty of guys who aren't getting teched. They're teching the first place boat at the end of the season. So stop blowing smoke up everyone's ass. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You didn't tech half the boats. You teched one. You know what I mean? So why did you put everybody through a $10,000 ringer? Mm-hmm. You know, like, this is just, and it's the same problem I have with APBA and Offshore, in that they don't really think through anything that they do. It's all a knee-jerk reaction. It's all ran by people who haven't been involved in the sport in years. They just put a rule in the rule book. You want to know how stupid APBA is? They put a rule in the rule book that if you govern over the event, you're not allowed to compete in it. Right? So in other words, Smitty's not allowed to run his boat. Yeah. Okay? Meanwhile, the president of APBA is Chris Fairchild, who's the biggest hypocrite in the world, racing in his own series. He races in F1. So it's like, if you want to know why I hate APBA, it's because they're not for the benefit of the sport. They're for the benefit of them. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, this class of racing, where your skiffs, your Garveys, which Garveys aren't recognized in APBA, but your cracker boxes, your ski boats, all that stuff, right? They don't have a better option. Like, APBA's been the option. Yeah. Like, that's been, you know, this is the only place we can go. So in my mind, JSBR is going to crumble that. Like, we're just getting started. And I'll be so happy to do it.
It's the tip of the iceberg.
So happy to do it. I've been stabbed in the back so many times by them, I don't even feel funny saying it. I'll be so happy to bury them. You know, and I really believe that what we're doing is right. It's not a competition to me. Like, it's not like, when I look at them, I don't look at them as the enemy. I look at them as what used to go on. You know what I mean? And it's like, that's just
as almost like a what not to do. And
listen, I think everything, like even APBA, everything starts with people who are in it for the right reasons. And I think when times are tough and you're getting stuff off the ground and things do get off the ground, it's because you have a lot of really good people that are sacrificing their own personal gains to move something forward. Once you do, and you get that something to a point where it is existing and standing on its own 2 feet, usually what happens is the vultures come in. And it's like all the guys that were naysayers, you'll never do this, you'll never do that, you'll never do this. And then once you do it, all of a sudden they're like, oh, I want to be involved. Mm-hmm. And it's the people that shouldn't be involved. You know what I mean? And that's what APBA is. Like, they just put out this statement, 100 years of racing. They have never run a race. They're an insurance company. Have you ever met anybody from APBA? No, and you never will, because they don't do anything. They're referees. They're referees, and they're a middleman to an insurance company in which they're overcharging their clubs, because I know what they're fucking getting charged through the insurance company. So it's like, I sit here and I wonder, like, how long would it really take for JSBR to go from a local club to a national club? You know what I mean? And it's not something that the local guys have to travel to. It's something that can happen congruently.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we could still have our own, like, because
Garveys
are Jersey Shore.
Absolutely. And
Jersey Shore. That's why there's nothing for us anywhere else.
Absolutely.
West Coast.
And you leave
the
Jersey Shore schedule alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you start putting on these bigger, not bigger, but nostalgic style races. What do you think my goal was with Lake Apacon? As soon as we put that on the schedule, APBA decided they're going to try and run it the week after.
Being able to hold the hydros there. And
exactly. And it's moving into territories is all it is. And I think the truth is, I know I'm tough on them, but they're tough on me. And I'm at a point where I like doing what I do. I like doing this club. I like doing offshore. I like what I do. In fact, I love what I do. And I hate when somebody else does it for the wrong reason.
Yeah.
And then they become a thorn in my side.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, so it's not that I'm an asshole and I'm like, I don't want anybody playing in my sandbox. I just think that we have a better sandbox. You know what I mean? And I think that our sandbox should be the one everybody's playing in, not yours. You know what I mean? And I think that within 4 or 5 years, you're going to be amazed with where this club is. Well, mark my words. In this podcast, mark my words. In 5 years, I will tell you that, look back and see, I predicted it. This club's going to move.
And look at 1 year. If you times that by 5, if we keep that movement going.
Look at one race. Look at the difference between years prior to Summers Point. One race. Look at Summers Point to your live stream Tuckertons. Or look at, dude, it's bubbling faster than anybody realizes. I realize it because I have been trying to get offshore to do this.
You could be in your car. You could be in your car in a different state watching the live stream of the race. I mean, and not miss a single beat.
Right.
Because we have the drones. I mean, when you think drones, how many people are doing drone footage? Red Bull. I mean, all the big time companies. And the footage that we have is absolutely amazing that Jimmy puts out.
Right.
You put out. I mean, it's
but I do like produced pieces. So like I do like more cinematic style like promo pieces, right? Whereas like what I really like about Jimmy is, and Jimmy Wareham, for those of you that keep hearing Jimmy and wondering who the hell Jimmy is, and Jimmy's a phenomenal drone pilot here local. Where's Jimmy from, Manahawkin?
I think he's right out of Tuckerton. I believe. Jimmy's
phenomenal, and I'll throw right as I'm saying this right here. There'll be Jimmy's Facebook right here. So I think what's great about Jimmy is he's solely a drone guy.
Yeah.
Right? And I hope I don't insult him in saying that because I know he's starting to get into editing and wants to learn more. And I hope he does because his drive is phenomenal. Like, I have the capability to do all this stuff, but I don't have the time. And, like, Jimmy sits and puts – you guys got 2-3 videos every week.
Yeah, and we don't even ask him for this stuff.
No, he's just doing it because he enjoys doing it.
Yeah, just because he loves doing it. If he hears the boat or one of us will say, listen, we're going to test, he beats us to the dock and he's got his stuff out and – he's doing whatever he can to chase us, and it absolutely is mind-blowing. Some of the shots he can pull.
Somebody that sees this, if you're connected at all to a company that does electronics, does drones, does batteries, does anything that you could possibly think of that would help this guy, please get in contact with me, and I'll get you in contact with Jimmy because he's doing it out of his pocket. Last year, what
100%.
He built, what, 10 drones?
Yeah.
Just because he kept trying to build faster ones because he'd build a new drone and the boats would outrun him.
He lost 2 of them, and then he's got to worry about crossing reception with another drone. Like if you're flying one, well, you know what I mean? Because if one's got the majority, they could cut you right out of the sky, and next thing you know, you're in the water. I mean, there's a lot of risk running across the water. Yeah. You got the splashback from the boats. I mean,
well, and we're doing this shit over water. It's not like, you know, when you're filming dirt bikes and shit and they crash, you put props on.
Okay, let's go.
When
let's
we
go
lose
retrieve
ours,
it.
They're done.
Nope, it's gone.
Like, you know, and it's like I love Jimmy and what he's doing because he's doing cool edited pieces which bring in the fanfare. He's putting cool songs over it, and he's not some monetized entity that is getting copyrighted and all this shit. He's just doing it for fun, right? So he gets to do all this cool shit, right? And then on top of that, he's just solely from the drone. Whereas, like, I'm giving you camera angles and interviews and stuff like that, right? And my drone shots are pretty shots that fit in the feel of the video, right? Yeah. Whereas Jimmy, you can sit and watch his footage and learn why you were slow in that turn.
Honestly, like he gets the raw clips, and
he gets them up there right away. I love it.
It's crazy. It really
big
is.
Shout out to Jimmy Wareham, man. What's it? Duct tape FPV. It just came to my head.
Duct
Tape
tape
FPV. Yeah, check out Jimmy, man. Jimmy's a shit. And I just saw last week he was down flying a competition in I think it was North Carolina, and a bunch of drone guys got together. Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw
and
that.
they had like some half finished construction site or something that they were running these things through,
ripping through windows
and trying not to crash into each other. And shit. I'm like, that looks like I'm not that good. Like I'd like to just go try. You know, like I have one. It's sitting over there there in the corner, one of those FPVs like he runs. Yeah. It's just what scares me about him, and I was actually just having a conversation. You guys don't have overhead safety. I have like Angel 1 and Angel 2, so I got chopper safety, right? Yeah. So like my normal drone, when you're running that, there's a little notification that comes across the screen, says like, be careful, there's a manned aircraft in the area, so you don't crash into something, right? And that's all good. Like if I'm flying, I can just look up and be like, oh, the helicopter's over there and I'm right here. Everything's all good, right? When you're flying the FPV, you got these goggles.
Yeah,
on,
the goggles are crazy.
Right? And so and I can fly it. Like I didn't do it much. I crashed it into the water, not literally crashed it. It malfunctioned and it was sitting on the dock and just decided that it was going to fly for a second. Yeah. So it just fucking went in the water. I didn't do anything. But anyway, I was running this thing and getting killer shots. Like it was kind of cool. You can start from like the apex of a turn and aim this thing at the exit of the turn, and it'll run 94 miles an hour.
Yep.
Wow. So like I could get both sliding into the apex, and as they're accelerating off, they're not outrunning me. Like I'm actually catching them, and it's these crazy shots. Then all of a sudden in the goggles, you get this flash of red, and it's like manned aircraft, and I'm like, where? Like I'm flying a 8-pound or a 6-pound, 100-mile-an-hour bowling ball,
6 inches or 60 feet above,
and I don't know where this fucking helicopter is. So I'm yelling at her, like, babe, where's the chopper? Like I don't even know where I am.
Where's the chopper?
This thing's running. It's running like 100 mile an hour down the straightaway. So in the time it's taken me to think like, where's the helicopter? Yell to her. I don't even know where I am anymore. Like I texted Jimmy. I'm like, bro, you got to help me with it. How do I get around this chopper problem? So right away he was like, I'll build you a screen. I'll build you a controller. I'll build whatever you want. Like, he didn't say like, give me $100.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like
if it doesn't work for him, he can't get the right angle. He 3D prints his own GoPro mount, and he's like, that's the angle I want. You know what I mean? Like so, he does his own homework into it. It's not like he just goes out, flies it. Like he spends a lot of quality time on it, and you shows that he loves the sport.
Yeah, and it's cool because I think you guys have a lot of people around you that are doing that. Not just doing the drone stuff, but just lifting the club. Just, like I'm kind of incognito in that, like, I live in Tuckerton, but nobody really knows me. Like, I work up here every day. I'm kind of too busy to, like, be around. You know what I mean? So, like, I don't, like, my friends from high school and shit are gone. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just a loner in all this, So, like, it's kind of cool because I can walk into, like, the bagel shop in the morning and, like, there's 3 JSBR T-shirts in there. And it's like, this is so cool. Like, I don't even know who these guys are. Like, they're just guys. You know what I mean? Like, they're not racers. They're just guys. Yeah. And they're wearing, like, JSBR shirts. And I'm like, how fucking cool is that?
Yeah.
Like, you know
just
what
wait.
I mean?
We're going to flood the streets with that JSBR
Dude, it's so cool.
merchandise, man.
I love it. And you guys sold a shitload of shirts. There was people wearing those shirts everywhere.
Well, just wait, man. We're gonna push twice as much this year.
I'm pumped for it, guys. But how far into this are we? 2? I got nothing. I'm out of questions. You guys got
a co-pilot this year, Shanky?
Yeah, some poor soul actually volunteered for it, so we'll see how that goes.
After the first race, see if he still signs
a few
up.
people already making bets on it. Some people said 2 races, some people said 3, so we'll see.
I won't volunteer for you, bud.
No, why not?
Because I
scared John Donnelly away in one practice lap.
You scared me away.
I'll give it to John though. Even though you scared him, he stuck it out for the rest of the day,
Johnny's
man.
I took him on a practice lap, and he goes, "I'll never get another fucking Garvey after today."
Well, I also think he would have never lived it down either if he got right out.
Well, we're 2 for 2 with offshore guys.
Yeah.
So, and it seems that the Garvey guys seem to have no problem coming offshore.
No.
Nope.
So obviously it might tell you guys something.
But I got a new co-pilot this year. He was the owner and drive. Well, he didn't drive Cat Scratch last year. He did a little bit, but he was the owner of Cat Scratch, Mike D'Agostino.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So he's my full-time co-pilot for both boats.
Awesome.
We've been cranking out on the work, getting them both done. So it's gonna be a good year, man. I can't wait.
And what class are you putting money pit in?
That's 358.
358, and you're gonna run that?
Yeah, yep. I'm running both. I'm the owner and driver of both. So
I'm not gonna have to just worry about me in fucking stock class either, pal.
Yeah, I heard you guys gonna pull the menage a trois on
you never
Casper over there.
You never know what's gonna happen, dude. I'm not saying it's Casper. I'm not saying what boat.
Yeah, I seen the podcast. He wants to throw the $400 up, tear my motor down. 3 different guys are gonna drive a boat. I know.
I don't know, dude. I don't know, but we'll see. We'll see.
It's
They
okay,
better be
man.
buying a gasket kit too.
Yeah. Remember, dude, I didn't cheap out, so you guys better afford that premium high end stuff.
Kinetic's not cheap, baby.
So spared no expense.
Well, Felpro, Kinetic, if you're listening, we need gaskets. Well, boys, that's it. That's all I got for
Yeah.
you.
It was a pleasure.
Yeah,
Thank you for
definitely.
having us, and I can't wait for the next one, man.
Thanks
Yeah,
for coming in.
seriously.
Thanks, brother. Offshore Live 21. Thank you.